Hi everybody, hopefully that wasn't too loud for you because that sounded loud through my headphones, but the problem is the volume where I listen, where everyone else listens, is entirely different. But yeah, cheers for joining us whoever can. I realise this is mid-December and most people have geared up for Christmas or going elsewhere or don't have much else to do, but we do have a few people in the chat, so thank you. But it was high time I got back to some of these top 10s because it's been so long since I've done a top 10 period, let alone the collaboration one, apart from like the odd Essen thing. But now that all the Essen reviews are done pretty much, my last one I recorded this morning, and then I got the top 10 of the year to do. That's it. That's it for this year. So when I get back in January, I can start doing nothing but top 100, top 10s, the obvious stuff like that. And while it's quiet, but cool, blimey, Essen takes it out of me. But yeah, so today I had to find somebody willing to join me in mid-December, and if anybody recognizes Hilmar from a couple of my Essen live streams I did before, we basically did some like random vlogs while we were at Essen, and the two of us can happily banter and go nuts and insult each other, and that to our heart's content. So we said that we were going to do a top 10. It just took me a while to actually get round to sorting it out. So this was kind of a last minute job. So cheers if you do turn up. But before we get into what on earth this list is about, if you haven't met Hilmar, now's the chance for him to explain.
Hello, everybody. Yes, my name is Hilmar. I have a webpage called borspil.is, which is a webpage about board games and playing board games in Icelandic. We, people don't realize that even with a small nation like Iceland, where we have only 360,000 people in the whole island, we we have our own language, and we need to have content made in our own language. We do have one podcast in Icelandic, made by a few of my friends, but we also have. I also wanted to have some written content, and I'm also creating some videos about uh, about board games as well. Although, as you can see on the page right now, it's mostly just Essen content right now. But I just got a very good camera, and I'm starting to film my 2023 top 10 list and 2022 retrospective and some more.
Fair enough.
Apart, yeah, apart from that, just, I'm a web designer by trade. I make some pretty content rich website. One you might have seen before, from a rival YouTuber called Dice Tower, a small content creator from the US. Might have heard of. But
All
yeah,
right.
that's me.
That you were coming through a little bit muffled there for a second, but I've been cheeking around with your volume settings because they said you were a
Okay.
bit soft. Probably because I turned you down from my perspective and then haven't necessarily sorted it out for
Can,
others. So
can I get that definitely in writing that my voice is soft, because almost nobody tells me that my voice is soft and need to speak up. That is
nah,
never my problem.
nah. I've turned you back up to what it normally recommends anyway.
Okay.
I think it's because my headset volume was so high that everything was just deafening
Okay.
me or something. So yeah, much better
Awesome.
now. That's good. So yeah,
Thank you.
note to self: don't interfere with the volume settings. That works for us. So yeah, top 10 big bucks games. Now this is very specific, and first of all, whose idea was it to do big box games?
It came up in Essen. I'm not sure if it was you or I, or if it came up in the chat.
Well,
It might have come up in the chat, and we jumped on that idea.
well, shame on whoever it was for coming up with the idea because God blimey,
Yeah,
I've had some.
let's
I've
blame Johnny about it. It
yeah,
was
can we blame?
probably Johnny. Let's blame Johnny.
Yeah, we'll blame our friend that. But oh god, of all the lists I have done, there have been some doozies to do. This one was hard because
Really?
we just it was hard to do this list because it wasn't even just a case of ranking it. Ranking the games was hard enough. I mean, you may have to sort of take it as just 10 favorite games at this point, although I have tried to rank them. But when we were talking about big box games, the definition of what is a big box is so subjective and so hard to do because boxes are coming in all sorts of different sizes now that it was just impossible to even find a starting point. And
we did at the end, meaning that it had to be published as a bigger than Ticket to Ride box, and not that at some point it came as a storage solution. And then, I mean, I have quite a few boxes. Like I have the Wingspan nesting box, but Wingspan is definitely not on my list because that was well for many reasons, not only because it didn't fit the criteria, right? Yeah, whatever.
Well, I'm just saying that's the Ticket to Ride size, the box of that. But we're not talking about big box like Century Spice Road big box, Isle of Skye big box, Quedlinburg big box. We're not talking about the ones that come out and include all the tons of expansions, which is why that's not on the list, because that is just a storage solution with a ton of expansions in it. We're talking about base game, possibly base game in miniatures if they all fit in the box, but it's a bigger box than usual. But the hard part was just trying to find a starting definition, because for me, I've gone with essentially, if you look over there at the Fantasy Flight stuff over there, that Star Wars Rebellion is essentially twice the size of a what do you call it? Double the Ticket to Ride size box. That's my minimum threshold. If it's as big as that, some of it's also going down to, is it just a faff to carry to a game night? Can I put more than two of them on a shelf? Like for example, those two that are there, that's the two that's on that shelf. I couldn't fit 3 of that size on a shelf, therefore that's big enough. For some people, they think like the likes of Gloomhaven is like the minimum size for like an oversized thing. It's just, that is a crate. If that's the smallest one you can come from, that's going to alienate a lot of the stuff.
Yes. I would not have been able to go with top 10 by then.
Well, that's, I mean, so I went with the Fantasy Flight size box. Double size box is my minimum thing. Have you got a minimum?
Yeah, it was. There is one, maybe a little bit of stretch in here, but most of them are, yes, they had to be, taller, almost, the Star Wars Rebellion box or equivalent to that.
Yeah,
like there's one maybe a little bit of stretch because the well, we will come to that soon.
Yeah, there's going to be an element of that, and I'm sure people are going to disagree somewhat on the sizes, particularly if the box is rectangular, but there are some games that people might expect me to put on that I haven't, because as much as they are large, it's almost the like, you feel like the box would fit into a Ticket to Ride size box if it just simply squished it back down again. There are some rectangular games that do feel a bit like that, because most rectangular boxes are long and thin. If you squished it down into an actual square box, you probably would get a similar size. That's kind of how we're thinking anyway.
So there is one cheat then, definitely.
Yeah, well, I'd say there's one or two that are not on my list for that reason, but we'll have to see. But as always with these things, it's subjective. Obviously, you chat, we'll give you the chance at the very end to suggest like your ones, why we didn't mention them, whether you agree or disagree with certain choices. And as always, with any time I do a top 10, banter is well encouraged, not to mention any hatred for a game is welcomed to be said without holding back, because it always...
Well, you're definitely not going to love every game on my list, for sure.
Well, there was a couple that were being suggested, like I went on to... Paul Grogan's like Patreon Slack channel and all, to sort of asked the question a bit, and there was some interesting thoughts back from there, once I get past all the abuse. But I don't get abused on there, it's just a laugh. But certainly, the definition I think is going to be somewhat subjective, but that's just the way it is. So the best way you can do it is just to make a start. Go for it, take it away, Hilmar.
Yep. So my number 10 is Glenmore 2 Chronicles.
Oh, straight in.
Yeah. Why not? And you can actually see it. It's right up there. So it definitely falls into the category of rectangular box in the shape of Eagle Griffin type of games. In Glenmore 2 Chronicles, you have... Well, it is a game with like 10 or I think remember correctly, 10 mini expansions in it. But the just I love the tile lay and ratchet kind of game mechanism in it. It's there are so many just different things that makes my head hurt in the decisions to be made. I like how the intermittent scoring is done. I like how the game can just end prematurely if just the correct tile comes up. There are just so many amazing things about this game that makes it pop up, not just here but also on my top 100.
Oh,
Yeah, I
but that's
like it very much.
I've tried it once because I think when it came out in its second version, I gave it a shot to see what the fuss was about, and it certainly did look good. I need to try it
Hmm.
some more. The first go, I remember enjoying it enough, except for I think there was a path to victory that I was doing, or something that involved this board a lot. I know, where is it? There we go. This board in the back, where I was doing quite a lot of
Right.
collecting stuff on there, and it didn't seem to be as lucrative as all the rest. But I also probably would want to try this with a few like extra expansion modules thrown in, because we did do the bare bones game, and I feel like I
Right.
want it with a few extra bits of meat in there. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
one I would
think
try again.
I always throw in at least one, if not two, mini expansions, just because they're very easy to incorporate into the game, even teach with it. So yeah,
I mean,
it's
do you throw any
for
to teach?
the hmm?
Do you throw any stuff in to teach? I mean, I suppose the only thing
uh,
with this though is that I wonder how much of the box is taken up with the base game alone. Then, or are the modules small enough that they don't really contribute to the big size of it?
yeah. One of it, I think it's called the bridge or something. That is just connecting two tiles, and sometimes it's just in the box there are a few cards and two or three tiles, so there's nothing major to be added on.
So
Although
it's
some of the bigger parts are, of course, yes. There you go. That hill over there.
with this little green bit, the
Uh,
grassy knoll.
yes.
Interesting little
And
piece. Why is the Loch Ness monster in this?
the,
Is that a module?
yes, it's a module. Of course, it's Scottish.
True, I guess. Although
Mm.
suddenly going into the theme on that one.
Yeah.
I don't see this one talked about a lot though, because I remember it getting a decent amount of buzz when it first appeared, and then it sort of disappeared off the radar a little bit.
It was part of when I almost backed every other Kickstarter there was, until I realized that I had to also pay shipping, and I live in Iceland, so yeah.
Shipping's bad for you in general.
Oh yeah, so bad, so bad.
Fair enough. Right, on mine is definitely a big box, certainly when it came in, regardless of whether you get expansions or not, because it just came in a slight big one. Although this one does require you to play with a variant. If you don't play with the variant, this game is lacking a bit. It does, and the variant is official. It's not entirely a
Okay.
cheat. But the base version of Endless Winter doesn't
Mm,
quite fully work if you play it in its normal form. It works fine, and I still enjoyed it. But the problem this one has is that you get free workers in order to do a lot of your actions while doing the little mini deck building with the sort of the clan cards and all sorts of other bits like that. But by the time you get to the end of the game, despite the fact that there's a lot of paths to victory in this, you find that you can pretty much do everything by the time you get to the third, fourth round. And it just means that the whole concept of differentiation is kind of lost, really. But
okay.
what you do in the official variant that they've released is you remove one of the workers. So you don't have three, you have two. I don't know if it's for the whole game or it's for the half a game, I forget. But the idea is that by doing so, you restrict how much you can get done, and therefore you avoid that problem a little bit. But you can see the boxes there on the right. This is quite a sizable table, but this is a decent size, rectangular box that does take up most of the calyx square in there. And this is including a lot of these pieces, all these different boards, all the cards that will sit on there, the tiles that you need for the abstract puzzle bit in the middle, the monoliths or whatever they were called, and then you've got the tiles for the like the map around the outside. And even, I mean, that was an expansion, so you can ignore that even, but it all fits in the box anyway. But you've got the trays as well, so this, even if you just ordered the retail version, it will still come in that giant size box. So it is a little bit of a mission, but yeah, this one has disappeared. I mean, yeah, as Martin mentions, basically it was like hyped up for ages, and I suppose this is just the way of the industry now. It was hyped up for ages. It came out, got a decent amount of buzz, and then some people even put it on their like top tens of the year. I think I might have done as well, and nobody mentions it anymore at all.
Well, not quite true. The on the retrospectives that the Dice Tower is doing, it popped up at least twice. Mike Delisio still loves this game.
Yeah.
And I think there was at least one more that did mention it. I have this one off my shelf of opportunities. I bought this. Yeah, I bought it used from somebody here in Iceland, but I've not been able to get it to the table yet.
It's been a while since I brought it out, I must admit. I haven't seen those retrospective ones yet. I might have to like give them a look, although I tend to prefer the ones where they're in a group. But yeah, it's good because Mike was one of the ones who like bigged up quite a bit, and possibly Z. I can't remember, but somebody else did.
I think I remember it was on both of their lists. Yeah,
probably, which makes sense.
Right,
but I just don't see like anybody sort of mention it locally in that. I mean, I need to kind of get I need to get this like out again or something, whether it's solo or group, because I do kind of miss it. It is a good fun game, even if it's based form. And I say the variant does help a lot. It just makes it a lot tighter. It was starting to wane from my likeness because I found that I was getting a bit bored of the fact that you could just combo change so much before, and it just got a little bit annoying. But eventually, it decided to sort itself out. Cheers, Aaron. Enjoyed Gaia Project and Hegemony. Yes. Did you play Hegemony with him then? Actually, no.
I played the Gaia Project.
No, I think I did Hegemony, but then I think I remember playing a different game with Aaron, which I don't want to spoil, but certainly or perhaps he was talking about Martin. I'm not sure, but well, we started off on the biggest front. Do they get any bigger?
Well, mine is a bigger box, yes. For the people who know me, I tend to like certain type of games that have the word legacy in it. So my number 9 is definitely a legacy one. Luke?
Yep, sorry, I had to collect something.
Yep. So my number 9 is Clank Legacy Acquisitions Incorporated.
It is a pretty big box.
That it is. And I do have 2 copies of it. I have played it once all the way through, and I'm about halfway through another complete game. I like this game very much. I think the story is very rich. There is definitely a lot of story in the game. Too much for some people. Chris Lever, I am talking about you. But the thing is that when we did it the first time, we had a really great narrator. My friend was able to read with his very deep voice, and it was just very, almost as much fun listening to him read the story as it was playing the game. Of course, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's just it changed up quite a bit how legacy games were played, and I like Clank, so Clank Legacy was definitely something that just came naturally. And yes, I am backing Clank Legacy 2.
There's a second one?
Yes, and I bought 2 copies from the get-go.
Oh, great. Do I have to come to Iceland in order to play it? Because I still haven't actually tried this one. I'm not the
Yes.
biggest. I don't go mad for Clank, so I didn't jump onto the Legacy game when it came out. But it seems to be one of the few that everybody kind of holds in high regard compared to a lot of the other Legacies, where there's definitely a mixed opinion.
Right. But normally Clank Legacy is in the top rankings of a legacy game for sure.
Yeah,
So for most people who like legacy games, and if you like, I mean, you have to like Clank. I mean, there is
yeah.
no way
Well,
you can like this game and not like Clank. I mean, this
but to
is
be,
Clank, you know, to the extreme.
yeah, but that works for all Legacy games. I mean,
Yes.
I mean, apart from the ones who try to do their own system, but those ones tend to fail by the fact that they try their own systems because it's not. If you want a decent Legacy game, you've got to base it on something that already works.
Right. Oh, for sure.
But I don't know. I don't know if I'll get a chance to even try this one. I mean, I'm certainly not going to fork out for it and force my mates to sort of binge through it like that. Because I mean, how long does it take to get through the whole campaign? How many games is it?
Uh, Officially 10, and
It's not too
there is
bad.
no.
Although, how long's
Spoiler
each game?
alert! Spoiler alert! There's a hidden 11th game in it. Um, but yeah, no, it's not that long. I mean, it takes a little while to play because there is a lot of reading. I mean, sometimes there is even there is more than one page of text material to read. So
Yeah,
actually, what I would love to see is to have something like Forteller narrate it for me, or
yeah,
you know
yeah. The reading games
somebody a
do
little
take a
bit
while
better
just to get
than
through
me.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are a bit mad. I suppose it depends. I mean, Clank games vary a lot in terms of their length as well, so it does get a little bit mad at that respect. And I mean, a lot of the other Legacy games have taken a while just because it's trying to get the same group to the same location to play the same
Yep.
game. I mean, we've already finished. Like, we had to binge through Ticket to Ride Legacy, hence the video on that one. And other mates of mine are at least getting to near the end of Pandemic Legacy Season 0, but we are certainly. It's a case of how often can we meet up in order to play that one. But now I've seen Floor Teller. Yeah, Sleeping Gods is one, as mentioned, but I swear I've heard it in a couple of other games, and it does do a good job. Like, I like it when it's there.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if I'm playing solo, I'm just reading it in silence. But you know what? If I want to get immersed in it, I do like to have somebody narrate it to me. You know,
Yeah, and with sound effects and stuff. I mean, they do quite good sound effects as well. So it's I know for Gloomhaven, you could hear when they were fighting and sword fighting and clanking and all that kind of stuff. So that was really really well done.
right. Okay, cool. Right, we're going on the man. As I say, with all these things that we've done, we've tried ideally to stay away from doing too many from the same publisher and designer. So I can think of 3 games that are on my shelf that are from pretty much. I don't know if it's the same publisher. I think it might be, but it's certainly the same designer. And this one isn't even my favorite of the 3, but it is the largest of the boxes. Hence, it gets the slight leg up. Anything. If Uwe Rosenberg, well, before Uwe Rosenberg started having a fetish for polyomino Tetris tiles, it was all about big chunky wooden resources. It was all about big
Yep.
giant boxes full of sandbox Euros, which, to be fair, I love sandbox Euros. Give me a Caverna or a Fields of Arle any day and I will have the whale of a time. This one in particular, though, is probably my third favorite out of these 3, but it is the biggest box, A Feast of Odin. This is a pretty sizable box. I had to
It
look at
is.
it.
It
I had
is.
I had to look at it on the shelf, and is that picture showing? There we go. But yeah, if you look at the boxes, Caverna is, a decent size. Fields of Arle is a little bit bigger, but let me get the close up there. So yeah, that is the Feast of Odin box.
Yes, it's
It's
quite big.
bigger. It's bigger than Caverna and bigger than Fields of Arle. This one definitely is the larger of the boxes, but still an enjoyable game. If if on the basis of just how much is in this wretched box. I mean, for crying out loud, that's the contents of it. It's just like, a board with a million actions on it, a million different tiles. I mean, this is kind of like when the first time I saw like a game give you like trays in order to hold all the different pieces in it. And then all the other bits of resources, then all your player pieces, then all the ships, then all the boards. It's like, oh my god, this thing needs to be a crate. And even when it's this big, it's still a little bit of a mission to get everything back in there, especially unless you've got an insert. But it's, as it's still a solid game, but I have not got this out for a while because of just how big it is. You know, I preferred to play it solo rather than multiplayer because it's, for the most part, a multiplayer solitaire game, apart from just you took my space. But, you know, as a solo puzzle, it's got a pretty good mode in there. It's just how many rules am I going to have to relearn, and how much of this stuff do I want to get out on the table in order to play it? Although, is this on Board Game Arena?
I have no idea. I don't play much on Board Game Arena.
I seem to remember it might be, because if it is, that might be an excuse for me to actually go back and try it a bit more when I can just play it on there. But because it takes a while to get everything in, not to mention you need the largest table in the world in order to hold everything. I mean, this person here is clearly just playing a solo game, and look how much room it's taking up on there. It's a little bit insane. But it's worker placement, you've got and resource management, feed your people, Tetris pieces on all the minus point spots so that you don't lose a load of points. It's just the smorgasbord of actions you have. This board with about 40 different actions on it. That's kind of ridiculous. And, you know, trying to remember what they all do, it's like, it's 65. Like I say, I lose track. Yeah. It's more than I would need in a typical game. But the wealth of options is one reason I do like it. However, and like as Converbs, yes, I thought I saw it on Board Game Arena. I've got premium, so yeah, I definitely have seen it on there. I might have to go back on it at some point. But with it, there is one thing you definitely need, and as much as I hate to say it, because a couple of content creators can get all their egos enlarged for this, but yes, Norwegians is an expansion you need to have for this game, because the base set is fine, but Norwegians actually rebalances a couple of sort of fairly major issues with it. Yeah, that one. So, because, you know, it adds a bit more choice, it cleans up a couple of things, but mainly it balances out animals which do not work in the base set alone. You have to get the Norwegians expansion, otherwise animal tiles are not even worth the cardboard that they're printed on. You know, it's not a flawless game. I do wish that the occupations were a bit more interesting, because they feel like such a little side thing that's like bolted on at the last minute. I don't find that they tend to work very well, but given that there's 60 different action spaces, I can just ignore them.
Right. Yep. No, I like Feast for Odin a lot, and I do agree that, you know, it has to be played with the Norwegian expansion. It's just, you know, it fixes a lot, and it adds like 5 or 6 more action spaces because the 65 weren't enough. but
and revises a bunch of the old ones.
Right. No, I think the Uwe, you know, those games are some of the masterpieces Uwe has. So yeah, I definitely agree with there.
Fair enough. Right. Oop. I don't want that. Let's get back to... Is there a problem? I mean, do mine get any bigger than that? It varies. This is definitely, I think, one of the larger ones on my list, but not the largest. That one's going to come up a little bit later.
What?
I got one large. I've got ones larger than that.
Just one? Okay.
Well, I suppose it's relative. Actually, I suppose, yeah, there's more larger than that. I don't know. It's rectangles and squares and stuff. It's hard to sort of gauge, but don't worry. I'll let you know when we get to the biggest one that I have, and yeah, definitely, it's a bit of a crate.
So, yeah, it was a little bit hard for me to give you too much of a hackle for Fist for Odin, because my number 8 is Caverna.
Fair enough. I mean, Caverna is a game I prefer. It's just I went for the box size.
No, yeah, I went both box sizes, but I also went, which one do I want to play more? And Caverna is just a game, even though I like Feast for Odin a lot, Caverna is just it I feel it has, you know, a great deal of options, although I have played the game with people who have played it like 300 times, and that is not a lot of fun, because they know by heart, you know, every single tile in that game and how every single room works and the benefits and the points and everything. And I'm just like, yeah, I have to remember if there are goats or sheep in this game, you know, or both. I mean, it's no, I played it like 20 times, but still, you know, there is sometimes in betweens, and I do like it more with the expansion, with the first expansion.
Yes,
Um,
ignore the second one like the plague, but the first one is great.
I do have it. I mean, it's interesting, and actually, a friend of mine who hates Uwe games
Oh, I do like
really,
this one.
really, really much.
Caverna
Yeah,
or Agricola? Quick fire
right. Yeah,
question.
yeah, yeah. Right. No,
Caverna is
yeah,
greater than Agricola.
yeah, yeah. I think so. Although I do love Agricola as well, but yeah, I mean, what I was saying with the second expansion, that a man who dislikes Caverna a lot started to like Caverna in after the second expansion, and I thought that was a very interesting perspective. But he's
Did-
very much into stab you in the back, destroying everything you know you're
this
doing.
sounds
Kind
like
of,
they
kind
liked
of. Yeah.
Agricola as well in the first place, maybe, because a lot
No,
of
no, no,
people.
no, no, no. Not by he wouldn't touch that with a stick.
Oh, fair enough. Because some people like who preferred Agricola like Caverna when they threw in the second expansion, but for someone like me who likes Caverna for the reasons it's not like Agricola, it's like, no, you've made it like super weird and tight and fiddly now, and it's just like you've changed it completely. But the first expansion with the asymmetric boards and that, I mean, that's a given. You can almost teach the game with it because it kind of guides you in a particular sort of path to victory route sometimes.
Asymmetric kind of play, which is something that I like very much. So if you play it with a gamer that has played asymmetrical before, it's really easy to teach them to play the game because it, like you said, direction.
No, is that just talk there for a second?
Yes, 1 2 1 2.
Okay,
Am I
right, yeah.
fading out?
Now, there was occasional times when right, I'm hearing it in the back of yours. Sorry, I turned off echo cancellation for a second, but
Okay.
that was not a good idea. Okay, cool. Here we go. But yeah, Caverna's a solid game. At some, I don't know. I think we played it at some point this year, but it was just a case of like getting it. I mean, that's one problem with these big box games. It's like we say, like, oh, we haven't played them for a while. Well, they're giant big box games. It's hard to get big box games to the table. So, cut us a little bit of slack. This is why I like things that come in a small box every now and again, but pack a lot of game into it. It's a lot easier to get a Garfield game out to the table than Caverna or Feast of Odin for multiple reasons. Yes, one's heavier than the other, but some are just
Well,
easier.
sometimes, I mean, my fiance now has gotten more fonder of bigger games if they do have theme. They have to
Oh
have
yeah,
theme. They have to have theme. I brought out Ark Nova the other day, and she loved that. She loves
yes.
Fields of Arle. Her favorite game is Grand Austria Hotel. So, I mean, it's just, yep,
How's that? That's all no theme in it.
that has a theme. Yes, you're building up your hotel. You just need just a tad of imagination.
A tad of imagination to get past the dice and the fact that when people eat at said restaurant, they then stay the night. I mean, it's like...
Yes. Yeah, well, you have been to GridCon, haven't you? You have to eat there before you get to sleep.
Well,
That's
no,
the
I don't
rule.
have to. But then if I go to, I mean, I'm going to a restaurant tomorrow. I went to a restaurant on Thursday for a works Christmas do. I didn't then have to sleep over as a result of eating their food. It's like, I think I'm worried
No,
about
but
that.
it's, yeah, but still, it's having a little bit of theme and being able to get into it is definitely a
Yeah.
a
Oh yeah. I
thing.
mean,
And most of my games, I really the games that I don't like are abstract games anyway. So
I like abstract games when they're quick or when I know they're... It depends on the mechanics, to say. If they haven't got a theme, they've got to work harder to impress me. But then I perfectly like a pure abstract. I've got a couple of ones, like, Kamisado and Yinch and stuff like that. I used to play chess when I was a teenager a lot. So, those sort of abstracts I do like. But it's more with it... Hey, I mean... I had to do. Look, I wasn't into football, all right? I had to find something else to do. But,
Right.
all right. Next game. So, this is my Mind Clash pick for the list. And this is not the big box that came out for it. Because, frankly, the original box for Anachrony was big enough. So, it
Right.
was a pretty sizable container, this thing. You know, even in its original, like, kickstarted version that you got, I don't think it even mattered if you got the miniatures. I mean, they could fit, but you know, this one is still just mammoth in size. And I know the essentials boxes. Yeah, there we go. That thing in the distance there with the giant sleeve, which I think my old one had. I've now got the infinity box, but you know, it's got to hold all this. It was big,
Hmm.
all right. It
Yep.
had a lot, but this one, you know, one of my more, I think, probably one of my titles from David Turksley that I prefer out of all of them, partially because not just the fact that this is a good, fun, meaty worker placement game, but just the theme of this one, as we were just talking about, resonates a lot. This whole idea that you know you've got to prepare everything for this cataclysm, which does happen at a later stage, and when it does, it kind of changes how the game goes at that point. But it also takes time travel and basically makes it what debt is in real
Yep.
life. You know, debt is turned into a time travel mechanic of I
Yep.
need to borrow some resources now. I need to get I need to get this stuff to me. How do I do it? Well, I borrow it from the future on the basis that at some point in the future turn, I go and pay it back. It's literally debt, which basically means every time you go to your bank and get a mortgage or anything like that these days, you're borrowing it from yourself. It's banks
Mm.
know time travel, and they haven't, told us all about it.
Right.
And certainly I have mentioned that this is my Mind Clash pick. Yes, I know Voidfall technically came in a bigger box, but you might want to check out my video on that one. But actually, I don't mind Voidfall. I like Voidfall fine. It's just that's too much faff. This one is already quite a faff to get to the table. Voidfall's on a whole nother level. As much as the game is still enjoyable, but whew, yeah, just all these pieces, all those tiles, all these miniatures. The board takes up a lot of space, but it's still a big favourite with me and quite a few others. You know, we do try to get this out every now and again at a convention.
Yeah, I like Anachrony a lot. We actually were planning on playing it at GridCon with most of the expansions, the big expansions at least. Percy himself told
Mm.
us, please do not play with everything.
Yeah.
The game just doesn't work that way.
Well,
And
th-
I totally agree.
this boggles my mind actually with his stuff because I mean I agree. The Infinity Box, I almost kind of half regret it because I do like the Fractures expansion, but it's a
Mm.
lot on top of a lot. I don't
Yep.
like using any of the mini expansions because they're just too much. And you and it's sort of like he's saying himself, don't play with everything included because that's too much. Then why did you make them in the first place? Why didn't you just
Variety, and I can understand that you would like to play the base game with one or two of the mini expansions for sure. But
Well, just
but
that and Fractures is good enough. I mean, the mini ones I don't
yeah,
find as that fun anyway.
I haven't tried them. I've only tried Fractures once, and Anachrony. I like Anachrony. It's not on my list, but that is mostly because I haven't played it enough in order for me to be able to put it on the list. I think I've only played it 3 times. So,
Only three. Well, to be fair, I
mm,
mean, with these ones, playing any of these Mind Clash titles 3 times is usually pretty impressive in itself. you
right,
know,
yeah,
given how much of a mammoth they are. But yeah, we do try to get this one out. It's because a group of mates of mine who I play these like heavy Euros with fairly often. We do like these Mind Clash titles, and Anachrony is a good favourite. Although we do end up taking a Tricarion out a little bit more on the basis that it's the girl in our groups, it's her favorite, like one of her favorite
right.
games, period, let alone of Mind Clash. So, and given that I don't tend to get my collector's edition out because, again, big box faff and all that, it's like, oh, you want to play it? Good. That's one less hurdle that I have to jump over. It's, you
Mhm.
get it and you set it up and it's all good. I don't have to do anything apart from think during the
Right.
game. And it works for me. But nah, I think Anachrony's still my Tricarion has gone up a little bit in the recent times we played, but now I think Anachrony is still my favourite of the Mind Clash a lot.
So I did mention that theme is something that I really want to have in my games, and my next pick is two box theme.
Although, just repeat yourself there. Occasionally, your mic muffles out a little bit, but I don't know if it's Icelandic internet or something with the microphone. But if you talk again now, I bet it's working fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird.
What I was just saying is that I just mentioned that I like theme in my games, and my next game is definitely a full box of theme. It's literally Aliens, the board game,
What do you
Nemesis.
get? Oh, that. Oh, so I was gonna say. Now I get what you mean.
Yeah, yeah. Nemesis is great. I've played Nemesis quite a few times, and I like to play it either as a 5-player semi co-op with all the hassle that comes in with semi co-op, especially when you don't know the players enough and you're
Hmm.
both trying to figure out what the hell they're doing, and also just you know yeah, are they lying to me, or are they just really bad players? I've had some really interesting gameplays of Nemesis, but I also like to play it 2-player fully co-op. Um,
Okay.
yeah, it's when you do that, it's I like like I said, I like to play with my fiance, and we like to play then more co-op than semi co-op,
Yeah.
and it's it's very immersive. It's awesome to play when you have like a half lit room and some really good sci-fi music playing in the background, and just there's just tension in
Hmm.
every single corner. It's a luck fest, I know that, but
Hmm.
come
Go on
on.
then.
Sometimes you have to just be in the right mindset to play whatever game you're playing. You're not going to play Nemesis expecting a dry euro, for
No.
crying out loud.
Now, though, say you just mentioned it. Have you seen the all-in pledge for everything that's? I think everything that they've released for Nemesis, Lockdown, and whatever their new
Mhm.
spin-off is,
Yep.
Retaliation or something like that.
Retaliate.
$900, the entire lot. You've got to be
Right.
thinking to yourself, I'm spending nearly $1,000, including like the shipping and VAT for a board game or two. And it's like, what mindset do you have to be in to sort of consider that that's actually a good idea? You mean you have to
Well,
really love the game.
well, I have Nemesis, Lockdown, all the Kickstarter things,
Yeah, but did it
and
cost you $900? I mean, I remember getting the all in. I think it was for about 300 or 260 odd
I did. Yeah,
for that was before Retaliation was a thing. But I've since sold it because
right.
Nemesis is one of those games where I mean, certainly one person here is not a fan of it, but I don't find Nemesis boring. But the problem is that it's definitely got the theme, and I love the Alien movies now, so it's definitely like resonates with me over there. The game is incredibly fragile, though. I have had some games which have ended with some hilarious stories or something
Mhm.
crazy happening, but then I've also had games that have felt either very dry or somebody's dead within the first two turns, like it took longer to explain the game to them than they actually played it.
Yeah,
You can
but come on,
it's
when you're okay. So I heard this a lot, and I call BS on that. If that happens,
ooh
no, 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 no. If that happens, and it's a 3 hour game or 4 hour game, and somebody dies in the first 2 rounds, just resurrect them and continue. It's a co-op game, even though it's semi-co-op.
well, it's semi co-op. That's the thing. We weren't playing co-op.
Yeah, but still, I mean, just resurrect them and continue.
Well,
It's
I mean, how resurrect them? How? I mean,
just it didn't happen. The queen, we didn't draw the queen. On the
I think
second
this was
turn,
discover the
it's like,
warriors. So,
yeah, yeah, okay. It's just like, yeah, this, it's like choose your own adventure. And when you get in, oh, I'm sorry, you died. You just say, nope, that didn't happen. Let's backtrack and continue because we don't want to restart. And that's what I just do. I just,
I guess where do you
the
draw the line, though, on that one?
yeah, it has happened once with my gaming group, and we just did that, and that was absolutely uh, no problem to do that. And we continued, and they lost anyway, but they were still in the game.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of odd in that sense. I'd say some games I have had the most hilarious of endings, but I just and it was a nightmare to get to the table again because the rule book's not very good in it. So trying to relearn all the rules was a little bit on the tricky side. But it with the music and with the right theme, I know a couple of people. I mean, Nemesis is definitely one that I need to know who I'm playing with. Like, I'm not playing this with randoms. I'm playing this with people I know who love the game and can just breeze through it or something. But at that point, I don't need to own it. So, you know, I since had to sort of get rid of it, which is kind of annoying given it was, I mean, I got my money back for it, but it was just like I'd spent the time getting it, unboxing it, shoving folded space inserts into it, and then suddenly to get rid of it, it's like, because the thing is that I think I tried to use lockdown as a means of getting back into it because I thought, maybe they fixed some of the problems in the first one, made it a bit more streamlined that, and then I found out that it was 99% the same, and it's like, oh, right, okay, so still good, but again, still fragile. I just needed, although that one playing with the Doom music was quite cool because the Nemesis Lockdown kind of feels a bit like Alien crossed with Doom.
But then again, I mean, you know, maybe I'm a little bit more forgiving. You know, one of my all-time favorites is Betrayal at House on the Hill, and talking about a fragile game.
God, stick with Nemesis. At least you can get some fun out of that game.
I have both. I have both.
I can play. I'll happily play Nemesis with you if you promise never to play Betrayal on House of the Hill with me. So, that's definitely a given. All right, now as much as the last 4 or 5 games I think from this publisher, I've not been a fan of, which has certainly angered a lot of the fans out there. But oh well, deal with it. But you know, back in the day, this publisher was putting out some pretty quality games, 3 of which are in my top 100 and still on my shelves. This one in particular, I think, was probably the second one I played from this publisher, because previously I played his wine-based game, which I really highly enjoyed. And then this one, which then followed after, was, of course, Safe. No, Charterstone. Do we need to rewind back to the thing we had about legacy games and which ones don't work? Charterstone
is fine.
Charterstone is teach yourself a boring euro in 10 games. It's like with no story. I don't know, but Scythe, even if you forget about legendary boxes and stuff like that, Scythe, big chunky bucks. It's still, if you bought it in retail form, it's still big, it's still got a lot of stuff, and you ain't fitting a lot much else on your Calyx square. So this one definitely is taking up all the space. But I still really enjoy this one. I mean, even if I haven't got the expansions in it to, you know, show off a lot, you know, to like use like the expansion stuff or the airships and that, I'm happy enough just literally playing this game with the base set and possibly with the you got those extra, the encounter cards, you know, that added some more interesting stuff in there. They're certainly not particularly balanced. There are some good and bad ones in that pack. But then again, game. Exactly, yeah. Stonemaier is not known for balance, even in the good games. So, you know, so I just take that one on the chin. But, you know, I still like this little efficiency puzzle that doesn't take that long. It's a good race, has a little bit of interaction on the board, but not too much, but you're still kind of doing your own thing. And it used to be, I think, in my top 10 games. It's since probably dropped a decent amount now. But, you know, when somebody wants to get it out, you know, I tried the Fenris campaign. That was not the best of campaigns, but it did unlock some cool stuff for the game. But it's when you use that stuff, you're not really playing it within. And that's, I think, one of the things that hurts this one is that, you know, if you want to do like top 10 games that you don't want to play with noobs, this is definitely one of them. Because when somebody says, I'm going to get 5, 6, 7 of us together and we're going to have a game of Scythe, the first thing I'm asking is, has everybody played it? Because it only takes one person who doesn't know what they're doing to either unbalance things or just to drag the game out to an excessive length. I've had a 7-player game of this where all of us knew what we were doing. We were friends and we knew the game. We played it in 90 minutes. 7 of us. You know, it is doable. But that was with us taking fairly quick turns. That can double as soon as you throw in 1, 2 people who have never seen the game before. Because they are going to be... They're going to not be thinking about their turn before it gets round, or they're not going to know what they're doing. So this one doesn't hit the table as much because I am more of a case of, look, has everybody played it? Cool. Then we're going to have a cool, fun game of Scythe. You don't seem to agree on that, I'm guessing.
No, I really disagree on on how fast you have to get the game off the table again. Uh, I I played once a 5-player game where 4 were new, one was totally lost most of the game. We finished in just under 3 hours, but it was still a very enjoyable time that I had with my friends, and that is what I take out of some of the games. I have then played with them again, and they've got we're now getting those games under 2 hours, but sometimes it takes a little while to teach people who are not super fast with playing, and I find it fine.
The problem
All,
is,
the, all
if they're at like a club or something, you're not necessarily going to be playing a lot of games, the same game with that person all the time in order to get them
right.
up to that speed. And I know what you mean, like, you know, you're there with your friends and that, but that is inherent no matter what game I'm playing. I could be playing Scout or Monopoly with, or Barrage or Concordia or whatever with friends and still enjoy the fact that I'm with friends.
Concordia?
That doesn't make the
Do
game
you play
fun.
Concordia?
No, I'm listing 4 games I hate, but
Yeah, right.
but I'm saying that I can play a game I hate with friends. I mean, like I played Imperial Steam. A friend of mine taught me that one at my request. Funny enough, I actually decided, you know what, I want to see what this game's like. I detest that game with a passion, but I was still enjoying
Right.
the fact that I was with them. I just detested the game. You can't forgive a game for dragging out too long just because you're with good people. I mean, certainly that improves the fact that it's dragging a bit. But even if I'm playing with friends, I mean, you know, first time we played Voidfall with the 4 of us, that was taking forever to finish. Yeah, we're enjoying the fact we're with each other, but we still acknowledge this game is dragging like crazy. You know, I can't
Yeah,
fall
I
back
didn't
on that.
experience that with Voidfall, but I was taught by Turtzy, so we were
Well,
pretty fast.
well, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Jersey just does it at lightning speed with him, but
Yeah.
yeah, so
No, I totally agree with you with Scythe. I like Scythe a lot. It's my actually last year it was my number 3
what scythe?
of yes, yes, top 3 of all time.
Yeah,
Still didn't make it on this list.
it used to be in my top 10. I think it got up as high as 5, but then it's fallen out of that top 10. And by the time I do my top 100 next month, I suspect it's going to be a bit further down the charts. But like I say, if you're in my top 100, you're still a game that I rate at bare minimum an 8 out of 10, if not a 9 or a 10. So you're going to
Have
be
you played the Rise of Fenris?
yes. I've got all
Yeah.
that, and the campaign itself was a bit lacking, but I liked the stuff that I would have probably have preferred to just rip everything apart and just use the modules because
Yeah, but the story is fine still.
it's fine. Like I say, it's adequate. But I mean, once it was all said and done, I'm like, yeah, I would have happily just torn it apart and just used the modules because some of the stuff in there, if everybody does know the game and it's my copy, I want to get some of those modules out. But again, you play with someone new, the last thing you do is get all that stuff out because it's just a bit of a
True.
mission at that point. But all right, that's 7s on to 6s.
So my number 6, we are still spending some time in space.
A lot of big games do tend to be space related. I mean, that is the thing.
They do, and the funny thing is that this game, a lot of people say that this is one of the most heaviest game they've ever played. You said yourself that every time you put this on the table, you have to relearn all the rules. And
Pretty much.
for me, when I played it for the first time, I thought it was one of the most intuitive games that Lacerta had ever made.
Oh.
Of course I'm talking about On Mars.
Oh, sorry, yeah, Lacerda, not Mind Clash. Hang on a minute, but yeah.
Yeah, right.
There's so many games there's so many games I'm thinking of giant space games that you could have been picking until you mentioned the designer. It's like, okay, now it's working.
Right. Yeah, no. On Mars, it's a pretty heavy game. And I'm not saying
A
that
bit?
the game. I'm not saying that the game is easy. I just said when for me it just worked. Everything was very intuitive, and it just clicked in my brain. And I have no other explanations on it. I am autistic, so maybe that has something to do with it. But the fact is that you're either on the surface or you're in orbit, and then you just look at to the left or to the right of the table, what you're doing. And yeah, I love this game a lot. There's a lot of things to do. It's very heavy, but amazing game in every single aspect of it.
I did enjoy it. I mean, I do not think it's bad. This is a game I did enjoy when I played it, but intuitive is not the word I'd use to describe it. This one, I mean, I broke the brain of a friend of mine who normally is the one who beats us in most heavy Euros we play. I was like, he's the one who can find the broken combo by just staring at a game piece and that. And this one broke him, which is...
Yeah, we did that. My first game, there were three of us, and my friend Borri, he was halfway in, and he was still trying to figure out how the basic functions work. And afterwards, he was like, "Can you carry me to my car? I can't even walk."
I mean, I like this concept of like I've got to be in space for a bit, and I've got to be on there, but it's just too much of a rules brain bender. Like it's kind of insane. Try to reteach this one. If you walk away from it from longer than a couple of days or so, it becomes an absolute pain because there's just so much to consider. It's like if it was just a bit more streamlined, I'd be playing it a lot because I did still enjoy it, but I couldn't keep it for the basis that it was just never going to hit the table.
Yeah, it's not hitting at the table very much for me, but I still love a game of it, and I would definitely teach you the game if you would come over and
I'd happily play it again. It was just a massive thing. Although, I mean, it's not harder than Hegemony. I disagree. Hegemony's got a lot of rules in it, but then the rules are per player. The players have their own individual bits to learn. If we're just talking like I'm sat down, I need to know the basics and this thing. It's a rules curve for sure, but I would argue Hegemony's a lot more intuitive rules-wise, particularly mainly because the theme is stronger in that one. The stuff that you're doing with all the other players works theme-wise to the fact, yeah, that kind of makes sense because you would do this, and they would obviously, if I do this, it's going to tick off the capitalist and it's going to, be great for these, or so that. This one's definitely more mechanical than thematic, but it was still enjoyable, and I do like this whole I need to be in space or on land, because something else recently, like Evacuation, I only said it was an average game, but I do like the fact that you had to transfer stuff from old planet to new, and you had two separate like areas that you had to be aware of. Same kind of deal with this. And that was definitely probably my most fun bit of it. But trying to figure out what on earth I was doing was a different story. But nah, it's solid. But will I have a Lacerda later? Well, we'll have to see.
I know what Lacerda you have on your list, so
Right, well, this one, we're going to Fantasy Flight now. So I did mention that the double-sized box is, on my sort of minimum scale of this is a big box game. I've got 3 of them over there that are this big, and trying to pick a favorite wasn't the easiest one, although I had to sort of think, well, hang on, which one have I played more often recently? And even then, overall, which one do I enjoy more? And for that one, I do like me a little bit of Cthulhu tentacle love every now and again. So for Mansions of Madness, the big double box there, you get 2 of them on the shelf and that's it. But especially when you start throwing in extra bits and bobs on top, it's going to take up the space. But this is definitely one of my favorite kind of. It's not my current favorite because we'll see later on in the list. Some things have come out to kind of eclipse it, but it's one of those story-based narrative thematic games which you don't play in a campaign. And I like the thing I like is the fact it's not a campaign, it's scenarios. Mansions of Madness is get your investigators, here's your mission, use the app. I like the app integration, get over it, people who don't like apps, but it's a quicker game to set up because yes, it's a big box, but all you've got to do is just get your starting investigators and items, which the app tells you what they are, and then a couple of map tiles, and then you go. The rest of it you set up as you go along. Now, these miniatures suck. They suck absolute balls, to the point where literally I think I've got them all. I've got like a suitcase storage thing for Mansions of Madness because I've got like all the expansions and stuff. All the miniatures are now stuffed into a bag. They're stuffed into a couple of bags based on type in a separate box, and I never open that box again. I only use the tiles. now when I play this game, because these miniatures don't look very good, but they are the most fiddly thing ever, and the whole idea of sliding the tile, which has good artwork on it and important stats, into this stupid black plastic thing is just like a dumb idea. That was a horrible version of it, but I just use the tile. Do I want this little grey miniature, or do I want the artwork with the stats on it? I'm going to use that, like, hands down. So with that blemish aside, oh god, weird paintwork there.
Yeah, this the Cthulhu one is very strange. This one is much better.
Yeah, it kind of varies, but I mean, you want like a thematic story. You want like cool, the app telling you things like, it's not just attack enemy for 6 damage. No, it's like, what type of attack do you want? It magic, bladed, blunt, unarmed, and then it gives you a little narrative of, you slide under the cultist's legs, sweep the legs and stuff like that. It's like, it's adding to the story, and there are some great scenarios with this. Anything from house traveling in time to an airship with a whodunit mystery. Some that are heavy combat, some that are heavy theme. Start off captured, you got to get out of this area. It's like, I do really get a kick out of this one. It's I say, the fact that it's an easier one to bring out is one thing, because most campaign games are so like ridiculously hard to get played. There are some campaign games that I have played, enjoyed, and sold before I can finish them because they just can't get finished. But when it's a scenario, I don't know why it's so hard for scenarios these days. I don't need a 20 mission campaign. Just give me 20 scenarios. And then add more as you go along. I just think that's a better one. I gotta admit, if they did make a Marvel version of this, I would buy it within seconds. It's like, that would not be a difficult purchasing choice. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, IPs really don't work with me. I've never have any connection with Marvel at all.
And I said, I like my Marvels. I got me, Marvel Champions there for a kickoff, but even Marvel Daggers still on my shelf from before, because I've enjoyed that one. So, yeah, if it's Marvel, chances are I'm going to like it. They may be slacking a little bit on their movies lately, but the general comic lore and that is still popular with me. But yeah, if I need a scenario-based game, one of them that I'm going to pick these days is going to be Mansions of Madness. All right? What was that? 6s, 5s.
So we're still in space.
Oh, for crying out loud. Change the record.
Oh,
You're as bad as Roy Cannaday.
Oh, thank you. I'm not as colorful as him, but I appreciate the gesture. So this is actually a game that is not talked about a lot. It is heavily themed. It's based on one of the biggest IPs in the world. And the funny thing is that I haven't seen a single episode of that IP. Still, I love the game to pieces.
I'm trying to think which ones are based on IP, but there's one I can think of, but that wasn't a big box.
The base box had 3 factions in it. Now it has 7, I think, and you can play with all of them. And it's a big mega game with it takes a long time to play, but I can tell you, with the right crowd, I love Star Trek Ascendancy.
Okay. I've not played this one.
Yeah. This one, I think actually you would like, if being taught by people that, and then, when everybody knows the game except for you, so it's, it's easier to teach. What I like very much about this game is it is so highly asymmetrical. I mean, every single faction of this game is different, and the Federation is probably the most boring one that you play.
That figures.
Yeah, but there you have the Romulans and the Klingons. Those are the ones in the base game. But then you have the Ferengis, and you have, you even have Borg assimilation that will work as a. So it becomes
like a co-op at that point, isn't it?
Well, it's a semi-co-op because you just want you want to fight the Borg, but I just want to push them to you also, and so and get you killed, but not me.
Have
So
you not heard a thing that Q has said? Don't provoke the Borg.
like I said, I have absolutely no connection to the IP. Uh, it's just I sometimes I cannot fully explain why I like IPs that that I don't like the IP, and but
Well, you don't like
because
Star Trek, or
no, I have no connection to Star Trek at all. I haven't seen, I might have seen like 5 or 6 episodes in whole, and but just the how the mechanics are in this game, how this game functions, where you are building your space lanes, and there is a random length. You roll a die to see how long the lane between the planets are, and then all of a sudden you can connect to another system, and start screwing other people's things up, and it's an amazing game.
I'm surprised you went near this, not like in Star Trek, though.
It was, I have a friend who he can bring out. He actually has done this more than once, because not on my list, but another IP that I haven't seen a single episode of is Firefly, and I love Firefly the game.
I say you have got. I mean, I'm not going to expect you to like catch up on a ton of Star Trek, because that's a little bit much. But you have got to catch up on Firefly.
I do have Firefly the Blu-ray in my other room. I might start watching it at some point.
That's an easy one to get through. 14 episodes in the movie and you're done.
Yeah,
so.
I know.
But this is one I actually do want to play, though, because I have more of a connection to Star Trek. Certain series more than others. I mean, I love Generation, I love Voyager. I don't particularly care much for the original TAS or the Deep Space Nine. It's just, and I quite like Discovery after it finally got a bit better. And Strange New Worlds I'm really loving. So it's like I say, there are some series I like, some I don't, but generally Star Trek is a theme I do enjoy. So this game is definitely one I want to try, but not me purchase the game and try and learn and teach it. There are a couple of people I know with this game. I want them to teach me it.
Right. Well, just come to my retreat in Iceland in February, and I will teach it to you.
Easier said than done, but it's I'm looking at it, so there's only so much holiday left.
If anybody likes Star Trek even a little bit and like space games, I mean, this is a 4X game, in all its beauty. There is another 4X Star game that is not on my list, although I love it to pieces as well. So this is the one that I go for more than the than Twilight Imperium.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely. I mean, well, say spoiler alert. That's not on my list. It's a fine enough game. It's just way too long. Righty, 5 for me. Okay, I debated to put this on the list because I had to really look at the box and go, is this bigger than others? I wasn't entirely sure. It wasn't as big as I thought it was. But it is still big. I mean, it's comparable to a Fantasy Flight size. I think it's like marginally bigger or around that size. So it still counts, I think. But, as much as I've said most campaign games, I'm not as big on anymore because I just know that they're never going to get played. There is one campaign game particularly that I give leeway to, and that is mainly because even though the mechanics are hit and miss in some places, I have had to house rule a couple of things to make it a bit more less grindy. But the theme of Tainted Grail is unmatched with any other campaign game I have played. I absolutely. Are you trying to find your copy to look at the size?
Yeah. It's no. I actually shipped it away to my secondary storage. But why do you say that is marginable? It's like a box and a half of Ticket to Ride.
Well, I mean, it was whether it matched a double-sized Ticket to Ride. Like, was it comparable to some of the other choices? I had to debate about it, but it's on the list now. But this one,
I totally agree.
Yeah, this one though, from a campaign perspective, just cannot be beat. I've had to house rule a couple of things to make it less grindy, but the 2.0 version, Kings of Ruin, does fix a lot of that stuff. So
Yep,
that is going to be a
I'm
much.
waiting for that. Yeah.
Although I don't know if Awakened Realms remember they owe me a copy for doing the preview. I'll bet after all this time they've forgotten, but I'll have to try and remind them of this fact because I do want the game. But god blimey, the theme of this, playing this with some Arthurian sort of style music in the background, and going through this story with this phenomenally gritty artwork, the great setting. It's not all love and rainbows and everything like that. It's like, no, this is a horrible world you're in. Everything's gone to pot. You've just got to basically survive. And I've played through like most campaigns I don't ever finish. This is one where I have finished almost all of the content for the first edition. So I've done the base campaign, I've done the Frost Age of Legend or whatever it was called, the Last Night I think it was called, and I've done the Age of Legends prequel one. So I've done all three of them. I just haven't done the extra hard red mist one or whatever it was called. I forget.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
Red.
that one. The game's hard enough as it is. I don't feel like I need an extra difficulty curve. But god blimey, I mean, I've not played the Steam app like version of this, to see whether it's like anywhere near the same or something different. But
I haven't.
The narration, the story, and the writing with this setting is just so good. Whoever writes the stories in this, I hope they write novels elsewhere or something, because it sounds like they should be, especially for gritty fantasy settings. I like this card combat. I know some people weren't as fans of it, but I thought it was quite a clever little puzzle trying to, get the best combo to survive against ridiculously tough enemies. I mean, that was one problem with the game. The difficulty curve was a little bit extreme, but
I like the combat system very much. I dislike the social part that those
diplomacy.
Diplomacy, yeah. That just I tried and tried and tried, and I never fully understood how it worked.
It was a weird system, but the main thing was that diplomacy wasn't as good as combat. Like, you really wanted to be good at combat. Diplomacy was a side thing. So far, Kings of Ruin, I think, balances it a little bit better, but I still think combat's probably a bit more important still anyway. But diplomacy is no longer like a waste thing. But yeah, there's not many campaigns that I will sit through. I mean, I don't want to say the titles in case you've got them on your list, but there are several that I've played where I've gone, this is an enjoyable game, but I'm never going to finish this. It's either too much, or maybe the mechanics aren't as good, or the story isn't that. But a lot of the times it will just be a case of, I can only have so many campaign games that I'm willing to get out and play a lot, and Tainted Grail always ends up being better. Like, I play this one, I play a few missions of it, and I go, this is fun. I prefer TG. Boom. This was fun. I prefer DG. And, when Kings of Ruin comes out, whether I'll keep the first edition, I don't know, because I know there is like a update pack that'll come out for it to bring it up to 2.0 rules. That might make me want to sort of maybe repeat play it at some point, but I think time-wise, more likely I'll just have it in storage and play the second one. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This one is easily probably the most immersive campaign thing I've ever played. I can't think of one better.
I can.
Well, we'll see if it comes up later.
Well, we're back from space, at least.
Have we actually landed on planet Earth now? Or at least a planet?
Yes, we landed on a planet.
Just not Earth now. All right, so we're still technically...
Well, yes, I think technically we are still on Earth. My number 4 is... So this designer has become a huge favorite of mine, if not... both because he tends to create games that I love very much, but also because that man is just one huge machine. And if I tilt my head just a little bit to the right, you will see a full shelf of his games. Yes.
That one? Yeah. I debated it.
Yes. So, yeah, and I have this disguise as well, but that one still is waiting to hit the table. But for sure, Sleeping Gods is my number 4. First of all, this game is gorgeous. Uh, very often I like to play games with other people, but Sleeping Gods is actually one of the rare occasions where I actually just like to play it solo.
Mm.
Uh, or
I think I've only played
I
it
mean,
solo.
I at least with not more than two people, and that is just because when you split up to more, and especially in Sleeping Gods where you have what 8 or 9 characters, uh, it's too hard to get the synergy between the characters because you
Yeah.
all of a sudden even though everybody is in the same boat, uh because I'm doing the fighting, you cannot really help me out, or I mean
Mm.
that part is a little bit wonky, and but the story and just the huge world and what you can do in this game is just I played 3 times through, and I still have south and southeast to explore in the
Mm.
on the island, and I also have the expansion with the dungeons and and all that. So it's just
Mm.
it's a ridiculous amount of content.
It's definitely so much in there. And I mean, I played it. I've only played through it fully once, and I do love it. I think this was probably like my 11 or 12. Like I think it just missed it because I haven't wanted to get it out since I finished it one way through. But yeah, I could just head out in like one or two different directions and just have a completely different experience. I think it was just the idea that controlling 9 characters was a bit much.
Yeah, yeah.
I know the second
So
one, Distant Guys, I think fixed that a bit.
I think there are 5, so it's much easier, and I think it fixes a lot of problems that the original had. But I mean, for a game this big,
Mm.
I forgive just a little bit of oopsies that can be, especially if you can easily house rule them, or if you do
Yeah.
what I do and just play them solo. Uh, there is this game is almost to a perfection.
This one, yeah, there's a couple of little bits, like particularly with the combat, that sort of get a little bit much at
Yes,
times.
yes,
But I
yeah.
did I did really enjoy it. Like I say, it is still there because I hope one day I will get it out and just play another run through at some stage, maybe with the dungeon stuff added on for a bit of extra thing. I only played it solo. I can't think why I would want to play this as a group. The fact that all the characters are split and synergy wise, it would just go a little bit all over the shop. Would just, I think that would just get a little bit too much. Playing it solo, yes, 9 characters is a pain to keep track of, but then you get to go and just enjoy this immersive world by yourself. And
Yep.
the guy is a machine. I don't know how he's creating this much story content. Like, he does nothing else day to day apart from just write stuff. It's the only way I can think of. You would expect some of these games to just fall apart at the seams because there's too much in it, and yet they're still
Right.
cohesive. Yeah.
I mean, to think of it that for the past 3 years, he've done uh, this one, this
Something gods.
disguise, the print and play version of Sleeping Gods,
Yeah.
the peril of whatever,
Something.
and yeah, and then and
Now or
also Now
never.
or Never, and which is a fine game as well. So I mean, just how does he do that?
No idea. It's literally got to be all he does. I can't imagine that
Oh,
he does
right.
anything else in his life from each
but
day.
but
It's
but but, but then again, I mean, his wife writes a lot with him, and
Mm.
she writes the music.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's definitely they can definitely work together. That is definitely a marriage made for the two of them.
Yeah, it does work with there.
Yeah.
Interesting thing that James mentions. My games are stored as a mix of horizontal and vertical because
Mm.
some of the, I mean, they're vertical, they're horizontal. It just depends on the game. Some games will store fine vertically and some won't. So I tend to just mix and match for a bit of variety. I think you pretty much, by the looks of it, store only vertically. But I know
Not
some games where the components will just fall out everywhere if they're not. Well, yeah, obviously you're not going to store those giant things vertical, but but I mean, some of these. I mean, I technically could do these vertical. I don't see why not. They were just there, I guess. But yeah, it's just on and off.
my secondary storage actually has I store them vertically there, and I am thinking about changing, but it's gonna take a while. When I redo my room here, I will most likely store some of them, at least vertically.
Fair enough. Right. You said earlier that you know exactly which.
Horizontally.
All right. You said earlier on that you know exactly which game from this designer would be on my shelf, which is not surprising considering how much we discussed this ahead of time. And it's probably not...
it's not that. It's just I know you, and we played this game together, and we had a blast when we did, because we also played it with Lacerda himself.
Yes, we did do that, and not to mention... thanks to shirt and merch studios, I've now got the T-shirt to effectively go with it. Yeah, I debated about whether a long rectangular box was good for the list, but as soon as we agreed, yes, Eagle Griffin was there. It's like, fine. Which is my favorite? It's Kanban. Without a shadow of a doubt. This one, I just love. The theme of this one is so strong, and I liked it in its first iteration, but it was fiddly. Stronghold Games was not the best one at doing the busy board with a very fiddly rulebook, and as much as I always loved to play the game, it was just fiddly. Then when Eagle Griffin started doing their deluxe forms, this one was pretty much shut up and take my money the second it was there. I knew it was expensive. I knew it was ridiculously priced and stuff, but I was like, I just did not care. Because, making cars from blueprint to get the parts, to assemble them, to test them, all thematic. Dodging Sandra, your boss. We've all had bosses we don't like at work. This is a thing. That is wonderfully thematic. And it's interactive as well, because there's so few spaces to go. Timing is very important. You must know where your opponents are going to jump on and jump off space-wise at any given moment, and then you're fending through all of these bits in the boardroom where you're kind of just like the pictured here, Sandra's staring at you and you're basically all on this table going, miss, look, I've done this, and there's so-and-so's copying my work, don't give him anything. There's just a lot of cool things on this, but the Eagle Griffin version made the components a lot better, the board is a lot easier to read, the rulebook is a lot better, the solo mode is a bit of a faff to pilot, but it works. It does work as a solo mode. It's just quite a lot of rules to get around. But honestly, this isn't a game I tend to want to play solo. This is one where I'm like, I've played it 2-player and I enjoy it a lot there, but if I can get 3 or 4 for this is just my Lacerda game of choice. And as much as it's closely followed by Gallerist, they were fending for supremacy for a bit. I think it's like, nah, it's Kanban. I love Gallerist, but this one just pips it.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's just how Lacerda does theme. There is a hit and miss. I mean, Weather Machine is probably, but even with Weather Machine, I actually have read quite immersive, detailed listings on how Weather Machine is thematic. And after that, I was like, okay, I get you, but when I need to read a 10-page listing explanation, that is a little bit too much. I get you.
When I talked about Weather Machine at some length, saying why I thought it was above average, like I like it, but I don't love it. When I started to mention that I didn't think it was a thematic game, oh my God, you got to be careful. The people come out of the woodwork to slag you off for that, because these people will go, oh no, this is exactly how it works in the field of science with making publications and stuff. And it's like, okay, maybe, but isn't the game predominantly about a machine that mucks around with the weather and you're doing all this stuff? It's like, why is the bit of theme I should be focusing on just making publications? I don't know. It's the theme does not jump out from Weather Machine as much that, but I have to admit, I think Lacerda is starting to slip a little bit in terms of theme though, because originally there was for me it was Kanban, Gallerist, and Vinhos, right? All 3 of them are wonderfully thematic games. Lisboa is historically accurate and I guess thematic in a way, but that one takes a bit longer. Yeah. Well, let me come off this screen. Whoop. Yeah. Lisboa's got a strong theme, but it's mainly if you've had the history lesson to go with it. But then Weather Machine's theme is a little bit more disjointed. I would actually argue I don't think Inventions has any theme. I think that is bone dry, that one. The newer one.
It is, but I loved it. It was a good game.
Yeah. I liked it okay. It was fine, but it was just like, I just didn't get much theme from it. Escape Plan... that technically does have a Strontish theme, but I just hated the mechanics with that one. That was just a dud for me. I typically at least like to play any Lacerda, even if, like, say, Inventions, I only find them average. But Escape Plan's the one I won't play again. But yeah, it's just like the earlier ones, I just think like their themes were just so strong, and lately those themes just aren't coming out as much. I don't know, but or maybe there's just the settings aren't as interesting. Certainly, a car factory of making cars is just like gold dust for me, or something, because I like cars, and that sort of thing will work. But then
you like cars.
Cars are cool.
Okay, have you seen your car?
Yeah, my car's awesome. Shut up. My Suzuki Swift Sport is amazing, so screw you. I've like religiously watched the old Top Gears and Grand Tours and stuff with that. So I still like the concept of making a car with the factory and dodging Sandra, and that just works from that aspect. I've not played a board. What was it called? Bot Factory. I've not played that one. I don't know if that's any good or not, but is that on your shelf?
Yep.
Is that any good?
Unplayed yet.
No, unplayed. Yeah. So, yeah, I want a little bit. I want a return to a really solid theme or something. Because I was shocked at. I was shocked how little theme Inventions had. I think that was kind of like the biggest problem I had, because Inventions just sounds like it's tailor-made to have a really cool, rich theme, but it doesn't sort of follow through with that, which was a little bit concerning. And Weather Machine, I suppose, technically does have the theme of the publications, but the whole Weather Machine thing is just a made-up setting as opposed to anything else. I mean, you've got the 4 different R&D things for, like, here's rain, here's cloud, and all that, but none of them have any differentiation or meaning, so it doesn't necessarily work in that sense. I have not tried the new one that he was using at GridCon, Speakeasy,
right?
Because
no, me neither.
I didn't jump into it. Could it be worth? I don't know. That setting, I'm not sure if I'm the biggest fan of that theme, but if it's thematic, I'll still give it a shot. So, I mean, I'll certainly try any Lacerda game you shove in front of me. That's the thing. He's got enough of a reputation and enough likeness for the 4 games that are on my shelf, the chosen 4, which is Vinyos. I don't know why that's... I think because I took it off to measure the size or something, I put it back wrong. But I'll correct that when this video's done. For now, you're just going to have to accept that it looks weird and see if anybody with OCD has a problem with that.
So I just noticed that we're at number 3s, and we still have not had any crossover. But
No, we haven't. No, I mean, we've crossed over on, like, say, the publisher and the designers, but we've not necessarily picked the same favorite.
No, but I am guessing that we actually do have a crossover now. No, that you will cross over with this one. That is. So I've said that I love asymmetrical games a lot. So what really good big box game is fully asymmetrical, with some high tension.
There's a lot of those, I think.
Yeah, we actually mentioned it earlier in the show. It's hegemony, of course.
Well,
okay.
Slight thing about that one. We'll get on to that a bit later, but carry on.
I mean, it's bigger. Come on, it's bigger than.
It's not that much bigger than the Ticket to Ride box. It fell short of the size requirement. That's the reason it's not on my list. Otherwise, yes, it would be probably my number 1.
Right. Yeah. No. Hegemony is just. It's when I saw it on Kickstarter, it was like, okay, here we have a game that is either going to be one of the best games ever made, or it's going to flop like crazy. Because it was being made by people who are very much into political science. So normally what can happen is that they take the theme over the mechanics, and they don't mix and match. But they really, really did that in this game. I've played it. I still have to play the capitalists. But I played the the three other factions, and it's so tense. It's so much fun. There is so strange that the first time I played, I was the the government, and
Oh, in your first
and the
game. That
state.
was brave.
Yes, yeah. Well, there were four of us playing all for the first time, so
Ah, fair
somebody had
enough.
to be the state. And when they play, when the capitalists played, like, yeah, I need some sponsorship. You have to pay me like gazillion amount of money, and and all that kind of thing. It's highly thematic, and it was just there is a lot of rope pulling and just general tension in this game. So um, yeah, I said that it's a bigger than Ticket to Ride box, therefore it fit my criteria of a bigger box.
Yeah, that one, because I looked at it downstairs and sort of measured it, and I realized I could fit 3 of these games on a shelf if I like had them next to each other or something, and it just fell slightly shy. Cannot argue that it's unexpectedly become one of my favorite games. It's like how the hell this theme managed to resonate with me, I don't know. Because when they first got told, yeah, because the designer recognizes like the stuff I did for Pursuit of Happiness, so like they said that, oh, we can give you a hegemony game. We'll send it up. I think Paul Grogan and I got it about the same-ish time. I was really like tentative about it because I thought this could be amazing by what I'm hearing, or like you say, it could just be something I hate. I don't know. And I don't think I've put so much investment into a review as this one is, because this one obviously required you to play it with all 4 different asymmetrical factions, multiple times ideally, and solo. I have played it with solo autumnal mode, and really get to grips with it, and then do the detailed review. This one took a lot of time to churn through, because I really wanted to give it the beans. So glad I did, though. This one is just such a I can't even imagine this theme ever being one that I would sort of go, oh, a social politics game.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But it just works.
It does. Did you see that they have another game in the pipeline at Essen?
Yeah, New World Order or something like that.
World Order, yeah.
World Order. I've pretty much given up doing previews on the show, except for ones that I cherry pick, and I did say to them, I'll do one for World Order. So yes, I suspect I will end up with some prototype for that one.
I will literally fly over to Britain and take the train to Portland if you get that, so that
To Portsmouth, yeah. The only thing is, I mean, I'm worried a little bit about it because it is mainly a sort of like an area control theme, but it's going to have the international politics thing, so the theme could still be set at me. I don't think, from what I'm being described to it, I'm going to like it as much as Hegemony, but I'm hoping I still really like it. So, but just like, as much as there's a rules learning curve here, the stuff just makes sense. Everything flows. And some games with asymmetrical factions, like really asymmetrical stuff, tend to be very separate. Like, I have no interest in playing something like Merchant's Cove, for the sake that every faction is asymmetrical. Well, I mean, it's a dry Euro anyway, but it's just every faction is completely different, but you're kind of doing your own thing in a sense. This one, you're completely in each other's face, like throughout. Like, everything you do has a massive impact on what someone else is doing. Root, I give Root respect. I mean, I don't love it, but I mean, I like it for what it is, but some factions work for me, some don't. Here, I'm happy to play any of the 4 classes. I mean, granted, I feel like I've played middle class too much, being the one teaching the game, but I love playing the state, when I teach the game, because at the end of the day, you want somebody ideally who knows what they're doing and can gauge how well everybody else is doing. So I love playing that character who can go, what, working class, we'll bump you up a little bit, like, capitalist, go, stay. You got too much. I'm holding you back for a bit. And just being able to kind of switch allegiances like that throughout does make the state very enjoyable for me. If anything, I don't think I've played capitalist as much as the other 3 classes, because somebody else always likes to play it just for theme-wise. But, I do want to play that class a little bit more lately, because I seem to be one of the only few people with a lot of us who play it at cons and that, who has won with capitalist. So it's like some people keep saying, oh, and this makes me laugh, the fact that there's always somebody who says this class is overpowered in most asymmetrical stuff. The designers made a big deal on Board Game Geek to post a screenshot from it where they said Hegemony wins the award for being the only asymmetrical game where there is a thread complaining that every faction is overpowered. so, so, so there is literally on BGG threads for every faction saying it's overpowered. No other game's done that. So,
Okay.
so it's
Right.
like that.
Right.
That's got to tell you it's reasonably balanced when all four of them are getting shown as overpowered. It takes,
I
you
I
know,
agree.
it takes its various, but yeah, I mean, if it passed the size test, it probably would have been my number one. I suspect. I would not have doubted it. All right, my friend. Now this is definitely the largest game. This is the crate size box for me, and it's not going to be on your list. It probably wouldn't be on many others' lists because most people have not even heard of the game, let alone got it off Kickstarter, which was the only way you could get this game. Especially because AEG don't seem to like to make their stuff easily available on retail. From John DeClaire, yep,
Yeah.
from
Yeah. I
John
know.
DeClaire,
Yeah.
Edge of
Actual
Darkness.
factions. Yeah.
Yeah, this one, John DeClaire does a hit and miss affair with the games, I'll admit. Some I like, some I don't. But I love this card, like, crafty system. I like Mystic Veil. I bounced a tiny bit off Dead Reckoning or whatever it was, the pirate one, but I like it fine. I like it fine. I need to play it some more. It was quite lucky swingy for my liking, but I still want to try it again. But yeah, anything with that card system of like I get to create a card from scratch and do what I want with it. This is the heaviest thing that he's put out, heavier than Dead Reckoning for sure. Where this one is where it uses that system. It comes in a giant, ridiculous crate. I don't know if the crate will show up on any of these pictures, but if it, there we go. Yeah, so if anything, I think that's a smaller version than the one I've got. That one,
So, yeah.
that one looks small in comparison, but the game itself, I mean, yeah, there's your box. There's the big tower that's in it. All those trays, this massive board, all these cards, all this stuff. This thing is jam-packed with stuff. And I'm not going to get it off the shelf because it's down there because I probably will break my hip trying to reach down and carry it. But this one having the mix of not only the card crafting, but the worker placement as well, where you've got those 10 locations and you're putting your agents there in order to get some cool engine going. There's a lot of different paths to victory in any game of Edge of Darkness, regardless of what locations are brought out. The solo mode, that Voiceless Guild or whatever, is actually not that hard to pilot and good fun. I find it's a pretty solid game. Yeah, I think it uses these scheme cards. But I love the fact that these cards you craft are available to everybody. This is where the interaction comes in, because the cards you create end up going across this middle row, and each turn, when you draw cards, you spend the influence tokens to like draw specific ones. But they could be neutral ones that have got nothing on them. You always get an advancement every turn to slide in, so you're constantly updating cards every turn. You don't have to go out of your way to do it. You can just maybe go out of your way to make it more faster, I guess. But just because you've created an awesome card doesn't mean you're going to get it. It will come out of the deck and somebody might go, well, that is a fantastic card. You know what? I'll have it. I'll get some reward for it, when you do use it, but I might have wanted the card. Give it to me. Sod off. Stuff like that. And it just makes for a very good interactive sort of meaty experience. But yeah, it's a lot to get to the table and a pretty meaty affair. Not too many rules, actually, compared to a lot of these big behemoth games. But yeah, it's a behemoth, especially with all the expansions that add more scenarios in it. I mean, I have made the mistake of being a completionist with this thing when I really shouldn't have, because there's just too much content in the box for me to ever play in my life. But we do like it. It's the same person I mentioned who likes to carry on earlier. We both like this one quite a bit, and some of the components vary. In terms of quality, I feel like for the cost, it's still built to a reasonable budget. But yeah, definitely one that I just fell in love with.
Yeah, I played it once. I liked it. When AEG started the Kickstarter for the expansion to it, AEG did a huge FU, and they said that sorry, we do not ship to Iceland. And
that was specific, but
yeah. Yeah, no, they just said no, we do not ship to Iceland. I did meet them at Essen this year, and I said, just what the fudge is going on with you guys? I mean, we are literally part of Europe. It's not like you're sending to a like a developing country where all the packages are stolen.
You'd think
I
that the
mean,
UK would be harder now. So,
yeah, and sometimes it is,
Hmm.
but still, I mean, why there is for that matter, I've never understood if a handling company or a fulfillment company in Germany, uh, crappy shops, I'm talking about you, for example, that it's hard to print out a shipping label saying, look, Hector, Portsmouth, UK, than Hilmar, Reykjavik, Iceland. I mean,
Hmm.
for a crying out loud, it's a shipping label you're putting on a box.
Hmm. That's not good. I mean, I must admit, AEG with their Kickstarters is not, particularly great from history, and certainly they do overprice them like crazy, and the shipping costs are mad because they're US
Mm,
based and that. So this was
yeah,
anytime they bring out stuff for the Edge of Darkness, that is like, oh god, this is going to be a lot of money. But it's a game I really like, but it's why I haven't bought a lot of all the other stuff. The
mm,
various ones like the Thunderstone Quest one. Like I've been tempted to grab that one, but it's just like lots of money. How often will I play it? That's a ton of money. That's always a lot of money. It's like that. It's like the point repeats itself no matter what other problems I might have. So yeah, but yeah, no, most people have not even heard of Edge of Darkness, so it is a bit of a niche game, but just one that just
definitely is.
came out of nowhere and play it.
It, so finally, we have a crossover.
Oh god, finally. Which, to be fair, my two you might cross over with, but you haven't mentioned it yet. So unless it's your number one, probably not.
There is absolutely no chance on earth that my number one is going to be on your list. But my number two is on your list, just a little bit further down. And you can see it by the right shoulder of you. It's Mansions of Madness.
That I didn't expect. Of all the ones that you were going to cross over with, I didn't expect that to be it.
Really?
No,
You
well,
have
I don't know.
you have heard me talk in quite a detail of how I love the Cthulhu mythos of Fantasy Flight. I have everything for Arkham Horror, the card game.
That's the
I
thing. You
have
mentioned more about the card game in Arkham Horror than you do Mansions of Madness specifically, but
well, Mansions of Madness is just Arkham Horror in a house. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just so I like all the games. I have second and third edition of the board game. I have Eldritch Horror. I even have Elder Sign. But Mansions of Madness is definitely
Hmm.
one of my staples on the top 10 of all
Hmm.
time. Just
Nice.
yeah, I totally agree. I mean, even the 4 hour scenario they had in the base game.
That's a
I
long
mean,
one.
it's a long one, but we had so much fun playing that scenario. And the people who say that the app is making it a computer game, just yeah, leave, just go,
Yeah.
leave. I mean, it's just that's not the thing, and just how the variety of how just the layout of the house changes
Hmm.
every single time. And also when you have who done it scenario, it's never the same person who
Hmm.
done it.
Yeah,
So
it still changes things up. I mean, I can't remember how the 4 hour
right.
scenario went. It was so long ago. If I played it now, it would just be like a brand new game at this point.
Oh, definitely. Well, that happens with the game that I played yesterday, but but yeah, no. Mansions of Madness is just a genius of a game. I love how the synergy between how I know all the characters from all the other games, but they are still have powers in this game that
Hmm.
they don't have in other games. For example, I mean, Lucy is one of my favorite characters in this game. She's the only character that I just deny giving her weapons because she is just so much better fighting, barehanded because of her martial arts.
I was going to
And
say, I think I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
she's
I mean,
her name
I must
Lucy.
admit, is it Lucy? I'm not sure.
Lucy Liu, I think. Yeah.
That's the actress, isn't it? Lucy Liu?
Oh no, Liu. Oh, maybe I'm. Yeah, I have a book.
I know
and
exactly
the
which
other stuff.
one you're
Yeah.
on about. Yeah, you're on about the martial artist. She's quite a fun
Yeah,
one in the card game, but I
she's
forget
actually on the picture. She's literally on the picture in the front.
what on the front of the box. You mean or
No.
no?
On your screen, in the front detail, isn't that her? Or maybe it's
Uh,
not. No, maybe
I'm not
it's
sure.
not.
Lily,
Uh,
Lily Chen.
Lily Chen. Thank you. Yes.
I thought I did begin with
Think
L. I
about
just
it.
couldn't remember, but
Yeah. Right.
yeah, I've said a piece on this one, so I won't belabor it. But I mean, I must admit, I've got the Arkham Horror second edition stuff in this massive wooden crate up here. I'm either going to chuck it or find somebody mad enough to take it off my hands without posting it because I'm just never going to get it played.
Second edition.
Yeah, I've got the third
Yeah.
one down there in a couple of expansions, but it's like I haven't even brought that one out to the table in so long. I still enjoy it, and I would probably play that sooner than the second edition just purely because it's easier to get played. But the problem is I'm at this point where I'm like, okay, I've got Mansions of Madness, Arkham Second, and Arkham Third. And if I'm going to pick out of those three, I'm going to pick Mansions. So why do I have the others? It's you know, and I've got the card game as well. So again, right. Arkham Horror Third Edition, LCG. I'd probably still do the LCG, so I've certainly got to make a bit of a decision on those at some point. But yeah, I love it too. All right, my number two, well, clearly it's not your number one. I'm not sure if you've played it yet, but I've made a big deal lately about video game licenses being brought to big bucks game, well, to like board games in general.
I haven't played it.
And, you know, I like video games I love in general, but I think they are a perfect means to bring to board games because if they relate, if the theme is done strong and it's faithful, that's already going to elevate the experience. Obviously, the mechanics are still got to be good to match, but if you do get some half decent mechanics, then you know you're in luck. It's all going to be great. And for me, at start of the year when I finally got a copy of it and could play it, mostly solo, but I have enjoyed my 2 free-player games of this as well. Man, did they do a good job with Frostpunk. I was so worried that this one was going to like bomb or have horrible mechanics or something like that. And granted, they did need to fix the difficulty rating on this game because it was a little bit obscene. I will play with the easy cards, not the I mean, you could possibly make me play a medium one, but frankly, I think the easy ones are still challenging. They are not easy. They are just easier than hell difficulty and nightmarish hell difficulty layer 7 that the hard ones are. I mean, I can't imagine why you would play the hard versions. But God, this game is so thematically rich and like so. Yeah, I've noticed Johnny's finally turned up. Took your time.
Hello, Johnny.
But we said nothing about you at the start, don't worry. But Frostpunk, oh man, they took the theme and just made it. I mean, not even just visually. The fact you've got this giant tower and all the surrounding buildings. Now, I mean, I've got these miniatures and stuff. It looks beautiful on the board. Put the Frostpunk soundtrack on when you play this, or this War of Mine soundtrack. Both of them work fine, and it just oozes the theme. There's a lot of rules. It's a lot to keep track of, and certainly it's not going to be a short game, even if you're playing it solo. I mean, if I played it now, I'd probably have to relearn half the game, so I'm like, oh great, how's all that work? It's a learning curve. But as learning curves go, this is one that I am happy enough to just go for it, because it is just that much fun. Playing it solo is great. I do like to play it solo, I think, for the most part, but I have played it as... We played it with Paul Grogan as a 4-player, and that did take a long time, but it was still a good laugh. I've played it with a couple of friends of mine who I've convinced to buy the game, and we play it as a 3-player, and that worked really well. Just having somebody that you can discuss what you're going to do with these laws, and which ones you're going to pass, and what buildings, what routes to go down. I mean, this is a full co-op experience, and certainly a little intimidating, I can imagine, because it's definitely got a lot in it, and you don't have asymmetrical roles, but you do, if you are playing it as multiplayer, you do technically have an aspect of the game you're responsible for, and if you play it solo, you need to know how all of those aspects work. It is a little bit insane, but I mean, look at this thing. You wouldn't even believe that the mat is an add-on, so ignore the mat. But all of this other stuff you see here, the cards, the boards, the pieces, and everything like that fits in the base box. And the box isn't even that huge. I mean, it's big enough for this list, but You'd think it would be the size of like Edge of Darkness or something, and it isn't. Forget that stupid iceberg box. That was a waste of time. The ridiculous oversized coffin that thing came in. As soon as Folded Space, Frostpunk had something called an iceberg box, which they did on the Kickstarter.
Really?
It was this huge, long, rectangular box that could hold it and the expansions, but it was unwieldy. It didn't look good. It had no artwork on it, and it just wasn't very well designed. But I used it because it fit everything. Then Folded Space brought out an insert for Frostpunk, which could get everything in the base box. So now I've switched back. In fact, I switched back because I had to nick the boxes off Paul Grogan to do it because I'd since chucked mine away. So I was like, whoops. But yeah, theme, mechanics, story, scenario based, so no campaign. Let's face it, the game takes long enough. You do not need this to be a campaign. Nope. The miniatures look fantastic. I don't think I've even played all the scenarios in it yet because I find myself playing the first one a lot when I'm teaching it, or just because it's easy enough rules. But I will certainly accept more scenarios down the line, some more lore cards and stuff, if they ever want to expand on this, like particularly with Frostpunk 2 coming out soon on the PC, that will be a thing. But yeah, this one was such a please don't F it up. Please get this right. And thankfully they did.
They did. The reason it's not on my list is because I've only played it once.
Yeah.
So that was one of my criteria. I have to be able to play it more than once if I wanted to have it on the list. But I definitely can see why this game is on your list. It's absolutely amazing. But I realized, your number, I was thinking about another game for your number 2, but of course that's number 1. I know you're number 1, and you. Well, don't have
fair enough.
To.
I'll just assume your number 1's bad. I don't know. Actually, to be fair, I'll just say, looking at your ones, I don't think any of them have been ones I've disliked. I mean, Glenn. Really... Your 10, I've only played the once. 9, I've not played. 8, I like. 7, hit and miss. Yeah. 6, I like. It was just too much. 5, I want to try. 4, I like. 3, I love. 2, I love. Yeah, so I mean, most of yours are generally like that. You haven't mentioned a game yet where I've like, yeah. You mention? Well, when you mentioned Betrayal on House of the Hill, I hate that one, but thankfully that's not eligible for the list, so I don't have to suffer through that one.
The Legacy game does.
Yeah, but to be fair, does anybody like the Legacy game of that? I've not heard anybody talk about it.
I've played it twice.
Why would you want to? I mean, does it break as often as the normal game, or did they fix them?
No, of course it doesn't.
Oh, God.
It breaks, but still I like it. Hit it.
All right. I don't know. All right. Okay. Right. Number 1's then. I mean, yeah, mine should be obvious to most people by now, but I'm curious what yours is.
Again, it's a cinematic game. It's also highly thematic. It's also very much campaign driven. It comes in a coffin, and it has frost in it.
Oh, I was afraid I thought we were gonna go through the whole list without mentioning one of them, but sadly not.
No. My number 1 is, of course, Frosthaven. I mean, you just don't know what a good game is if you don't like Frosthaven. It's my number 2 game of all time. It's a beast, but it has a great story. Yeah. Whatever. There is a huge difference between Gloomhaven and Frosthaven in the fact that now that you go into
color scheme wise, certainly.
Yes, of course, it's white and not.
All right, I'll be good.
There are so many. Just how the story evolves in Frosthaven, they definitely thought more about that. The changes between summer and winter, where the winter is more harsh. When you go to Frosthaven in the winter, you're dealing with other things than you do in the summertime. My gaming team that played it has dissolved because the couple I was playing with moved to Norway. Those bastards. But yeah, but still, I mean, I am going to play this solo from now on just because I want to see how the story evolves.
It took far too long as a group. I think it's better for solo these games.
I actually think that for if you can play it as a group, if your group is either two people or some kind of mixture of couples, so that there are two households. They cannot be more than two households doing this game, because if you try with more, then everything goes down the drain very easily. And when you do it with a couple, then break up like I happened with Gloomhaven, that was really, really sad.
Oh, but I mean, if I ever wanted to try these havens again, maybe the digital one, because it would take a lot of the admin faff out of the game. And I hear good things
Yeah,
about the
but
digital app. I mean,
I've tried the digital app, and yeah, my focus, I cannot keep track of the focus. Just that the hit points go off, and my cards go away, and I don't have the physical components. It's just not the same for me, so I can't do the app, unfortunately. But try and see just how much time they spent with the story. Who said that?
Johnny doesn't like
Johnny.
it.
No, yeah, Johnny doesn't like good games either.
Anyway, so Paul loves it.
Yep, of course.
Although Mike likes the digital more than the physical, though. Interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the digital one is just that I have a harder time keeping track of what's happening in the game, because everything goes just like this.
Right.
And all the calculations and everything is done for you, and you.
But then that a good thing, because there's a lot to sort of calculate and make up while you're playing the physical game.
But you don't so I can't keep track of what happened. So
right.
why are my hit points at 4 all of a sudden, and I don't see it because they just vanished because somebody attacked me. That's the thing. So for that reason, I like the physical one.
Yeah, I might give the digital one a try at some point, but I mean, I tried to give Gloomhaven a chance several times, not just Paul Grogan's teach, but a few more times after that. And I think I remember playing in somebody's campaign. It was drop in, drop out, so somebody could take over. But after a few scenarios, I was just getting bored. It just wasn't working for me, and I'm not a fan of the. I mean, some of it I found a little pretentious with the whole thing. It's like, we got this really cool system for doing your rolls and that in combat. And it's like, it's just a dice. All you've done is replace the dice with a card deck. It's still the same thing. It's, bits like that. And I think it was just one of those, this is too big. Like, I'm not going to finish this campaign if I ever try it. If I bought the game, I don't think I would ever finish it. And I get that some people have. It's taken them a long time. I have certain friends who have taken most of their lives to finish the original Gloomhaven. Maybe Jaws of the Lion would suit me more. I don't know, being a smaller scale thing, but
and also because the map is on in a book.
Yeah. But then that gets to the thing of like, right, you've already got Gloomhaven, and now you've got a separate rating, separate ranking for Jaws, now a separate one for Frost, and it's like they're still predominantly the same game. They got tweaks and that, but
they're not.
I'm just waiting for
Project and Terra Mystica.
But they're just as bad. But yeah. Or Brass and Brass Birmingham. But yeah.
No, we can. I'm on the wagon that Brass Birmingham is just an expansion.
Oh yeah, it pretty much is. But everybody else tries to tell me otherwise. All right, well, that's fair enough. I mean, I thought we were actually going to be like, oh my god, he hasn't mentioned it yet, and it's like, oh, it's going to be this one, isn't it? So I thought we would get through the whole lot without mentioning the most obvious pick for a big box game, but someone had to do it, I guess, if the chat wasn't going to. My number one new, it would have probably actually been Frostpunk had this one not finally got the beans, got played, and got reviewed somewhat recently. Yeah.
Right, and you played it. You'd actually played that game next to me at GridCon.
Yes, yes, it got
Yes.
played twice at GridCon because teaching this
Right.
is a breeze. You know, yes, there's a bit of an FAQ and rulebook is not perfect, but the rules are so simple that a lot of it I can just teach as I play. And if you've played even remotely heard of the video game, a lot of it will make sense intuitively. But this one is just working for me. Yes, it's a big box. It's got the miniatures in it, yes, but it does have all the stuff in it. You know, it's not like it's a separate add-on. It's not out on retail yet either, so it's not like you can buy suddenly the small box version. But like I said with video game licenses, if you can get solid mechanics, obviously yes, that's going to help. But if you respect your license and do justice to it, it's gonna sing for everything. And I would struggle. I don't know. Frostpunk's really damn good. They are on par with how well they respect their licenses. This is the video game straight ported. You know, everything from the artwork to how the characters work to what all the monsters do, how they look in like miniature wise, the missions you've got, the weapons you can have, which you can chop and change to heart's content. This thing is just basically Deep Rock Galactic. And I mean, I was playing the game earlier. I still keep playing the computer game, you know, every now and again, because I could literally just go, well, I got 20 minutes spare. You know what? I'm just going to play a quick, 20-minute game of Deep Rock Galactic and have some fun with that. But, I play it solo. I can play it with Bosco, you know, the little robot that you have, which still makes for a good fun game. I played it the other week doing the solo thing, so I wanted to play it a couple of times before the review. But I played it twice at GridCon with 4 of us, and, you know, a mixture of people who have heard of the game or not. I wish these photos were a bit better, but it just works. And it's, again, scenario based. There's no ridiculous amount of, you know, campaign stuff you got to do. Ah, yeah, this is a good picture. I like this one. But it just, you know, you can tailor the difficulty. It's a bit too easy on the first couple of levels. You want to sort of crank up the difficulty a bit. 14 missions, you can create your own. The map layouts can be different. The monsters, obviously, what event cards come out will chop and change things. But it's one of those co-ops that everybody gets. It's something I described similar to Flashpoint Fire Rescue, where you've got a lot of options and they're all generally quite good. So as much as we can all discuss with each other what a good plan is, you can still do something and not feel like you're scuppering the team. You know, it's a bit different from something like, say, Pandemic, where you can kind of solve the next turn to say, this is clearly the best thing you should do and this is subpar. With this, it's not that subpar. I mean, you want to kill this enemy? Well, it could be a threat. You want to go grab the, you know, Pocket Bloom that we need to do? Well, it is the objective. You know, that is still the thing. And so it makes for good stories. And if you do play this with people who know the video game as well as I do, then yeah, the quotes are just going to be, the references are just going to keep coming out with loads. So I was, again, with Frostpunk, all these video game licensed games, I am scared when they come out because I want them to be amazing, but there have been some major duds with video game licensed games. You know, don't get me started on Skyrim and Fallout, for example. But
Yeah, you're wrong about Fallout, but the have you tried Fallout with the expansion?
No.
No. Okay, so that fixes Fallout. So I mean, I can understand why you don't like Fallout if you haven't tried the expansion.
I'd give it a try with the expansion to see if it does actually fix it. I'd give it a shot. But yeah, Skyrim, that was horrible. But with this one, yeah, I just get an absolute kick. It's like 99.9% faithful to the game. I've already backed the expansions. This is a very overpriced game. Certainly, the Kickstarters are very expensive, particularly for the expansions. But I want more content, please. I want overclocks for the guns. I want the biomes. I want the sort of space rig things there. The mini expansions from the new things are going to be great. Like having a bulk detonator run around, the giant thing that explodes. I was like, that's going to be what the miniature for that's going to be like. It's insane. So yeah, it only recently been able to give this one as much of the beans as I could, but I love it.
Yeah. I haven't played it, so is it in any way? No, it can't be. The one game that I thought that might be similar to this one is Project Elite.
No, it's not. Project Elite is timed, so everything comes on and you're going, chuck everything on. No. This is a typical, like, take it in turns, skirmish, creatures activate. The gameplay is literally you do 3 actions from a list of all these actions, draw an event, and then that event will do stuff. And then next player, next player, next player. So that is simple enough. It's just what those events are, and when the swarms trigger is when the creatures activate and do their things. So it's like I say, a typical scenario-based skirmish game, but it's probably, despite the fact that it does have slight FAQ and rulebook issues, which they are going to fix for the upcoming Kickstarter, a 2.0 book, which I definitely will be getting, but I've printed out some summaries and I know the game well off anyway. It is definitely one of the easiest ones to just get out and play. Doesn't take a lot of setup and doesn't have a lot of teach time. So it's doing it for me. Right. Oh yeah, one crossover. So question is, what... I like James' comment, yeah. Next top 10, we need big games in boxes that are too small. Yes. Anything... I mean, the whole list would just be Devir games. All of their games are in boxes that are too small. And the original Garfield game lineup.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Paladins, for example. Yeah, no, that is true. I just realized when you were talking about the FAQ and stuff that I actually forgot a game that should have been on my top 10. And the reason I forgot about it is that I've played it twice. It's coming on Kickstarter, but I don't have it in my collection, and that's probably why I forgot it.
Which is?
And that would Batman Gotham City Chronicles.
I mean, Batman and stuff, but I mean, until they learn how to write a freaking rule book.
Yeah, no. So a good friend of ours wrote the new rule book, and I play tested it twice. So therefore, I know the rule book is good.
Now, finally, yes.
In the third printing, I mean, just. But yeah, that would definitely have been on my list if I had just remembered it.
I'll play it again with a proper rule book, but my God, it was a massive slog for there. So, right, people in the comments, come on, get your big guts games in there. I want to see which ones we missed. I mean, certainly Sleeping Gods was like 11 or 12. I did consider a few things like Rising Sun and that, but then I've sold Rising Sun, so that's not quite one of my favorites these days. Obviously, I mean, over there with the Fantasy Flight stuff, I decided not to do Rebellion or Forbidden Stars, which is next to it. I don't think you can see it on camera. So, those two certainly were on the agenda, but I play Mansions of Madness more than I do the other two, so that one took priority for Fantasy Flight. We've already mentioned Nemesis. I know Johnny's got here a bit late. Arc Nova failed the size thing. It is a long rectangle, yes, but I would imagine that if you squish that down into a square box, you would get Arc Nova in a typical box. Maybe not necessarily Ticket to Ride size, maybe slightly larger, but I don't think you would need like a Fantasy Flight double-sized box to fit Arc Nova if it was a square. Because the majority of it is cards, and cards are easy enough to condense down. The tiles would probably be the biggest thing, and maybe like the board. Because, I mean, the main reason it's even a rectangle box is because the board is predominantly a long rectangle. So I did debate Arc Nova a lot. Because a bit like Hegemony, it would have just easily shot up to like 1 or 2 or something had it been on the list. But I figured that if I was going to allow Arc Nova, I'd have to allow stuff like Lost Ruins of Arnak. And Arnak's not that big a box, even though it's a long rectangle. So I had to draw the line somewhere. Arc Nova, Mansions of Madness. Well, we've mentioned it twice on our list. And yes, it is massive with all expansions, but we're talking base game alone, and it was already a big enough box there. That's a good one. Not played it, but
Max versus Minions is a huge box. That's another one that I haven't played enough to get on this list.
I say, not even... Some people have had it. They've never joined in the game with them. I mean, programming games, I don't dislike them, but they're not as high up on my genres I like as others.
That one is just so funny.
That's the thing. It's light.
Yeah, it's very light, and I like it, but just haven't played it enough. I had Voidfall in number 11. I had Fields of Arle on the list. War of the Rings, second edition.
Yeah,
Eclipse, second Dawn of the
I
Galaxy.
did. I did contemplate War of the Ring, but
Mm.
I don't like the game enough on that. I was actually afraid you were when you kept saying we're in space, we're in space, we're in space. I was thinking like he's going to say Eclipse at some point, and I'm going to give him hell. But yeah, he didn't. No, you didn't.
No, no,
Which is good.
it's yeah. Eclipse is fine, but it was on number 17 on my list. Seventh Continent, I thought about too, but that is also a card game that is
Hmm.
in a bigger box. Like,
I feel like it doesn't need to be in a bigger box. I mean, and even then,
yes,
is it that big a
yes,
box? If you just buy
yes.
the base set of it.
The base set of it is like Feast for Odin. I mean,
Okay.
it's three
Hmm.
card rows of cards. It's a
Right.
huge card thing.
Into
So
that.
yeah,
No Pursuit of Happiness. No, because yes,
right.
that is that. But we said at the start we're not doing big box storage solutions. That is a storage solution. You can buy Pursuit of Happiness in a typical, even slightly smaller, even than the Ticket to Ride size box. That's only a big box because it holds everything for Pursuit of Happiness in it. And it's stuff like the Wingspan nesting box and stuff like that. We're not including just a storage box because
No.
they're always going to be big. And also, that's only big because of expansions. The base game of Pursuit is not that big. Matt, this is the one that I was waiting for on your list. What happened to Mosaic? I know the retail version is not big.
Right.
Maybe that's the reason, but that other one you made us play in Iceland,
Yep.
that's big.
Yep. Yeah, it was on my list. It's number 27. I mean, there were just
That
26
low,
on game.
right?
Yes. Well,
Really?
I made up to 63. So
Well, I know you had a longer shortlist than I did, but yeah, I don't. I mean, once I get past 15, 20, I stop. So.
right. No. It was just it was an interesting thing to do, and I like to try it. I mean, one game that is here that fits, but just didn't make the cut is actually just right here, Tapestry. Uh
I suppose it is big books, yeah.
yeah, it's
It's
the
not a good
same
game,
as
but
yes, it is. Uh
broken.
yeah, whatever. I
What
mean,
do you mean, whatever? That's an important part of a game. Is it broken? I mean, it's like...
you just read the FAQ version 17.4 and then they might have fixed it at least.
Tapestry is the board game
There is-
equivalent of a
yeah.
video game live service. It's like
There is-
Tapestry is Cyberpunk in board game form. It's like we'll fix it eventually with updates and patches.
The one thing that actually surprised me the most, because I'm not sure why it happened, but Marrakesh is on number 24, and I was surprised with that.
Well, what do you mean you were surprised? I
Because-
hate I'm not a Feld fan.
No, I'm surprised that it didn't go higher on my list.
All right. I mean, yeah, Marrakesh is definitely big backs, yeah, because that one's bigger than the other ones in that lineup.
Oh, definitely.
with all
Definitely.
the pieces there.
Yeah.
Endless Winter I mentioned earlier, so that one's already done. Journeys to Middle Earth. I sold it recently. I do really like it. I just exhausted all the content for it. Yeah, I mean that probably would be in my teens somewhere. I mean comparable box wise, it's the same as that's the thing. It's the same as a Fantasy Flight box size for Journeys to Middle Earth. Yes, when you get all the expansions, it's a lot bigger, but the base set is about as big as those. And I probably, after tossing and turning, Masters of Madness would still get the list on there. Ankh, I mean, I've not played Ankh. I wasn't the biggest fan of Blood Rage. Rising Sun I do like, but I have sold it because unfortunately Rising Sun suffers from the problem that once you realise that the cards are better than any other strategy in the game is kind of solved. So it's started to get a little bit problematic at that point.
The biggest insult that I've heard about Ankh, I backed Ankh. I have Ankh with everything, and I played it with a friend of mine once. Brought it down at the store. We played it. I opened up both the boxes. I have everything in just 2 boxes, and I took the content out that we were playing with, and so 85% of the content is still in the box when you do that. And he said afterwards that, well, technically you can fit that into a box like
Well, like a small. Well, it's
you know,
oversized, isn't it? Yeah.
yes, like a bonfire box, because you
So
don't
why is it in a big box?
it's because it's all plastic. I
Hmm.
mean, if you replace all the plastic with
Hmm.
standees, you could fit it in a much smaller
Yeah,
box.
there is that. I
And
mean, Deep Rock Galactic is similar because they haven't released a retail box of it, but they will.
mm,
Maybe that's a much smaller game, but the miniatures are in the box that I get.
yep,
It's not like
yep,
because Frostpunk is big enough with just its box. Yes, there is a
right,
miniatures add-on in a separate box, but even just the
yep,
normal box is big, so that
yep,
kind of works on there. I mean, I've not played Ankh because I think by that point I just got sick and tired of Eric Lang in this game. So it's like, yeah, I'm not like playing any more of them, and yeah, the merging mechanic just sounded bad on paper, so I can't imagine it's gonna work too well in the game. I find that is a weird rule, and when I've seen it on playthroughs, it's like, oh yeah, I can see that's a little problematic. Lords of Waterdeep, it's not necessarily a big backs game. It's just horrible shape. It's like,
yeah. I'm pretty sure you could fit Lords of Waterdeep easily in a Ticket to Ride box.
yeah, if you did it there. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, I would not care about Mage Knight, but people did suggest that as a big box one. Although that's the Ultimate Edition. Doesn't that include a bunch of expansions within it?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's got an expansion in it, so isn't that technically a
Yeah.
cheat? But,
It's
I mean,
so that's why it's not on my list.
but then I guess the base set wasn't exactly small, so, I guess it could maybe work. ISS Vanguard, I did consider. I sold it because I was never going to finish it. It is a bit of a faff to relearn all the rules because as much as it does have a fun tutorial in it, it still takes forever to play the tutorial, and there's still a lot of rules you need to learn on top of that. But yeah, ISS Vanguard is no small slouch. That is definitely a big bucks one for sure. I just would rather play Tainted Grail. Lots of people will naturally mention Nemesis. Try to think what other ones were on my short list. I can load up my Google Drive and actually find out. My special Google Drive. Nope, that's my top 10 of 23. I don't want to spoil that.
Really?
Nope. Forbidden Star, Star Wars Rebellion, fine. Frostpunk. Nations, I wasn't certain if that box was big enough, and Nations wouldn't be a top 10, but, potential. Fields of Arlen, like I mentioned, I had to choose one Uwe Rosenberg, and I chose the biggest box, even though I think Fields of Arl would have been the alternative if I was literally just going for my ultimate favorite, but for some reason I just gave the edge to the box size on that one. Path of Civilization, behind me, I did contemplate that. It wouldn't be enough for a top 10, but this sort of thing there. But it is definitely a big box. It takes up nearly half the Calyx shelf, which it probably, again, doesn't need to. In fact, I am kind of curious why it's in a box that big, because it could have been condensed down. Cerebria, I chose Anachrony as a Mind Clash game. Vindication was tempting, but I was trying to find out if it was that. I mean, I have to admit, Vindication probably wouldn't be top 10, but I think it does.
Definitely fits in the box.
Yeah.
The box size definitely goes. It's a rectangular.
Big.
It's in the equal.
It's a giant one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I think that would probably be alongside Sleeping Gods as kind of like the 11 or 12, because that was definitely in there. And the only other one of the ones I played was Zaya, because Zaya comes in a big enough box that it actually juts out of the Calyx shelf. It doesn't fit in it enough. But Zaya I've not played in a long time. I'd only ever play it solo. It's got a lot of rules, ton of setup, even with the insert, but I do like it. It's just, like I say, I just not put out in ages, so that wouldn't be a top 10. Yeah, Nations in there. Funny enough, Adam, if you scroll back a little bit further in the list about Midway, you might hear something about Star Trek.
Right smack in the middle. It was my number 5.
Pretty much, yep. The only other one I had on my list was, I don't know why I wrote it. I thought, like, do I even consider it in that? But I'd not played it. It's one that I was thinking, do I play it quickly in time for this? It was Massive Darkness 2. I have it downstairs on the Shelf of Shame, and it's just a big game. It's like, I got to get this out and learn it and stuff, but I want to play it because it sounds cool from how it is, but just not enough time. So was not going to get it to that point. But no, I mean, we covered quite a few big box ones. Your shortlist was a lot bigger, certainly, because I must admit, when I was debating the size, it got to a point where it's like, well, if I don't go as small as the Fantasy Flight one, I'm not going to have an easy time picking 10 games, period. Particularly if we'd gone with the suggestion where somebody said, oh, it's got to be like coffin size, like Gloomhaven or something. And it's like, well, if that's your bare minimum, I won't be able to find 10 games.
Well, not if we cannot then choose storage solutions, as a part of it.
Yeah, or even just 10 games I like at that size. Because something I noticed when making this list is, as much as I do have some games I like that come in giant boxes, I got to admit, I don't tend to stick with a lot of games that come in big boxes. Some of it is down to the faff. When you get a big box, it's normally going to be a lot to store, get, put out on the table. But also a lot of them tend to be the big campaign games where I don't have the time or patience to sit through 4 or 5 different 60-hour plus campaign games. There's just too much content in them. And I hate it when they do on Kickstarter. Efferfield's had a big deal with this. It's like, we've got hundreds of hours of content in this game. It's like, I'm not going to play 100 hours of content in this game. I have 500 hours logged on Steam for Deep Rock Galactic. That's over a couple of, so many years. And that's multiple sessions of anywhere from 15 minutes to 3 hours straight. I mean, yes, fair enough. I've played it a lot, but that game's been out for a while, and granted a slight addiction, but it's a lot easier to load up a video game than it is to get a board game out.
Sure.
One thing, actually, while we're on the subject, no one's mentioned it in the comments, and it got mentioned on Sakinat. No one mentioned Oathswarm.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked it fine. I sold it again. Campaign too long, too much faff. But yeah, I mean, I like that one fine, and it came in a massive box, regardless of what edition you bought of it. So,
I had to make a choice, and I chose Frosthaven as my campaign game instead of Oathsworn. That's all.
Yeah, it's that 40-ish hours is my cap for a campaign game. I mean, it's hard to say because I don't like to base it
for each game or for total playtime.
Well, total playtime as in for a campaign, but I mean, I know
game, 40 hours.
I don't know. Gloomhaven came close, but with 40 hours, I mean, I don't like to base it on hours anyway because the thing is, because it's all right saying, oh, it's got this much hours of content, but is it hours of content that you're playing the game, or is it set up and take down? And also, how much of it is padding? Because even Tainted Grail has, a bit of, some grindy aspects to it. So it's like, oh yeah, you'll be playing this for over 100 hours. Yeah, but if 20 hours of that is grinding, that's 80, and B, that's still an annoying part of the game if you've got the grindy aspect. Hence, like I say, even I've house ruled a couple of things in Tainted Grail to get rid of it. But Everfield's had the same problem. The theme of it was fantastic. Like, I loved that theme, the dream thing. I thought I was going to love it. And then as soon as I got stuck in, I thought, first couple of missions, I thought, good, you're on the right track, liking it. Fiddly rulebook, and certainly not the most intuitive game in the world, but I'll run with it. It's a sticker at this time. And then it got onto those slumbers, and the game fell apart. Like, yep. I am playing Ring of Roses with this stupid little map, getting keys, which I have to get in a certain way, and then you've got the slumbers all in between and those punishing events, and it's just like, you've turned this into a grind fest, and it just fell apart. I don't care if you've got 200 hours in FFLs. I'm pretty certain 150 of that is slumbers. I mean, hell, they re-released it with a mode that took away the slumbers. If that's not enough of a clue that it was the best of designs, I don't know what is. And that was a giant patch in itself, as opposed to that. Oh, this is a good one. Yeah, Foundations of Rome.
Right.
It's a fine game. Yeah, it does the job. It's a gateway level game. It looks similar to Acquire with the buildings on a grid map that you buy in plots, but it's got simple mechanics with it. I just think it's ridiculously overproduced.
That would be an understatement.
A game that simple and that light does not need to be a game that big. It's kind of ridiculous. I did think of Suburbia, but Suburbia is only big because of the collector's edition, and I did try to actually exclude. I didn't mention this at the start, but I did try to exclude collector's boxes.
Yep,
You know,
I did.
so collector's boxes tend to be a bit like this, to be honest. They tend to be a storage solution as well, because the collector's Suburbia has, I think, 2 or 3 expansions in the box as well as all the other stuff. So you could, maybe it'll be a big box at the end if you just took all those out, but can't exactly do that. I think of it. Any others you can think of? Oh, Amerigo.
Magnate. I only played it once.
Oh, that Magnate, yeah.
Yes.
Phew.
What other Magnate did you think? Food
that,
chain. No. That doesn't fit.
Well, I know it doesn't fit. It shouldn't be on anybody's shelf. It's just as soon as you say the word Magnate, PTSD starts setting in.
No. I mean, James Naylor's Magnate.
Yeah, that is a big box. Yeah, that one's there. Amerigo, funny enough, this was the one... I suppose excluding Cocopelli, because Cocopelli doesn't feel like a Feld game, and even then I've sold that one since. Amerigo is probably the one Feld game I remember saying I like this and kept it on my shelf for a while. This was quite early in my board gaming life, so at that point I hadn't played all the other Felds and gone there. But something about that cube tower mechanic with what actions you did was just fun for me on that game. So Amerigo is like the one Feld that you could convince me to sort of actually play if it was on the table.
So you're not backing the rest of the 29 games of the City Collection?
The City Collection is a stupid idea. Even the fans of Feld have got to accept that that's a stupid idea.
I was like, I did the first 4, and then I did the next 2 with hesitation. And when I saw the component quality there, and I saw the list that they are now up to 29 or 34 or something, I said, screw you games, no, never again.
Yeah, it's just asking so much money for unnecessary. It's so like, oh yeah, look at all these metal coins and stuff like that. It's a dry euro. It doesn't need these sort of components, and even then, the components aren't that amazing. I mean, the metal coins are fine and all, but the storage solution is to have a slot for each individual coin. It's like, I'm sorry, that is stupid.
They actually released this
box just for coins.
just for coins, and you want to see how efficient they are.
That's pathetic. That's pathetic.
Sorry, I really cannot tilt it more. But it was like I opened it up and I was just like, are you kidding me? And
no, because Queen Games are just I don't know, they are just doing it's such a waste.
Yeah, I used my clay chips anyway.
I was going to say, yeah, I've got a box of those clay chips. I mean, that's the best thing that came out of Brass was those poker chips. I use them in most games I can. Arc Nova and Hegemony religiously use those clay chips. So they're just better on them. I mean, comes with cup holders. I mean, you couldn't even use that coin box as cup holders. It wouldn't fit those, but those are just terrible.
Nope, that's a waste of space.
Right. Anyways, 2.5 hours is a good time to wrap that up. Otherwise, we'll end up being one of the longer streams I've done. But cheers for those watching now. Cheers for those who will watch after the fact. Because obviously I'm sure a lot of people will tune in later when it's not December or Christmas time. But now it'll be good to get these collaborations to carry on. And certainly I will get them back up and running in the new year. Essen is over. So we can look
until next year.
Yeah, but that's 9 months where I can sit back and go, right, there's not as many games being released now. I can do the odd review and get back to some of the expansion stuff. And I mean, January and Feb's got to be top 100 focused. So, that's going to take up a fair bit of time. But I said it on one podcast recently that I think people are just going to have to accept my show is seasonal. So when it's Essen time, it's reviews and not much else because there's just too many games. And then as soon as Essen finishes by Christmas, effectively, we then go back to other stuff. But that's okay. Yep, see you, Johnny, later on. But now we'll get more of us together. I'm sure Hilmar's not going to say no to more of these in the future, preferably with an easier list. Preferably with an easier list.
But this one was still fun, and
yes, it was still fun, but it was difficult compared to any of the others I've done. But yeah, we'll have to find something up there. We'll have to think. I mean, I need to ask the Patreons for topic ideas because it's about time for those. So, yep, we'll get more of these in the future. So, have a good Christmas, everybody.
Thank you. Hopefully I will see you guys soon.
We'll do. Yeah, we're all doing that. And by all means, like I say, check out tune into the start of the show where we were talking about what Hilmar does board spill wise. All right, so check out those, particularly the website and that.
I have 3 videos. 3.
Hey, we all had to start somewhere, including me. So, cheers everyone in the chat. Cheers everybody. Bye bye for now. Merry Christmas all.
Merry Christmas.